The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice Chair Orenshaw. Here. Senator Goycochea. Senator Daly. Here. Senator Krasner. Chair Flores.
Present. Please let the record reflect all members are present and we have a quorum. Good afternoon. Soon to be evening. Welcome to the hardworking Committee on Government Affairs. I say that only because we do anticipate we're going to be here for several hours today, so I appreciate everybody making time to hang out with us on a Friday. I know everybody have 1,000 other things happening, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening. I want to give everybody a quick run of the show. I want to remind folks to please silence your cell phones. I'm doing that myself now. We have four bills on the agenda. We're going to open up with Senate Bill 156, followed by Senate Bill 155, followed by Senate Bill 384, and then lastly, Senate Bill 433. Before we do the bill presentations, we do have some items that we have to address on our work session document, so we'll be doing the work session. I want to remind everybody that we're going to limit testimony, support, opposition, or neutral to 2 minutes. I want to remind folk that if somebody already made your argument, it's perfectly fine to say I agree with the previous arguments that were made, and I'm just here in support. State your name, and you're good to go. For those of you who have longer than 2 minutes worth of testimony, please provide your comments via email to our staff, and we can make sure they get uploaded and be properly reflected in the file, or better said, in the hearing. And I also want to remind folk, every single time we ask you a question, particularly those of you who are going to be testifying, please state your name for the record after each question to keep the record clear as to who is speaking and minutes. Also, if you are going to be testifying, if you could please provide your information to our staff so that they could reach out to you should they need to clarify something you stated on the record. So with that, we're going to open up the work session document, and we'll start off with Senate Bill 81. Mr. McDonald, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is Jared McDonald, Research Division, Legislative Counsel Bureau. The first bill on your work session is Senate Bill 81. This revises provisions governing regional planning. It was sponsored by Senator Daly and heard in this committee on March 1st. The bill extends the requirement that representatives from Carson City, Douglas, Lyons, Story, and Washoe counties and the incorporated cities in each of these counties each meet to discuss and identify positive and negative issues related to growth in the region. We did receive an amendment for this measure from the bill sponsor, Senator Daly. You can see that on the next page. The amendment adds state agencies, Nevada Department of Transportation, economic development agencies, and school districts to the list of agencies who local governments may consult with and solicit input concerning issues related to the orderly management of growth. Requires the majority leader of the Senate and the Speaker of the Assembly to each appoint 2 members from their respective houses, 1 from the majority party and 1 from the minority party. The amendment clarifies that each legislative member and each city manager serves in an ex officio capacity and requires the joint regional report to be prepared and approved by a majority of the county managers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 81.
So moved.
Vice Chair Orenshaw has made the motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 81. Do I have a second? Senator Daly has seconded that. Members, any discussion? Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I wasn't present for, I don't think, this hearing, but as I looked through it, I think we've really expanded the group. I didn't hear how effective it was in the first 2 years. Now we're expanding it, and I don't think there was a lot came out of it the first round, and now we're expanding it and putting more members on it. I'm going to oppose the measure until I get some more information. Again, we've got a lot of small counties here that are going to be overwhelmed with the group that are facing them, so I'm going to have to oppose this.
Thank you. Members, any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Senator Goycochea and Senator Krasner are nays. Motion carries. And Senator Daly, if I could please have you do the floor statement. Senator Daly will do the floor statement. Next on the agenda is Senate Bill 115. Mr. McDonald, please.
Senate Bill 115 revises provisions related to the mitigation of certain projects, was sponsored by Senator Flores and heard in this committee on March 8th. The bill authorizes a Board of County Commissioners to establish, use, and operate an in lieu fee program for compensatory mitigation in accordance with guidelines set forth in certain federal regulations, and enter into a cooperative agreement with public agency or nonprofit organization for the operation of the in lieu fee program. We did have an amendment that was discussed during the hearing. It was brought forward by Mr. Hardy. This amendment proposes to amend the end of Section 1 to include, in accordance with federal regulations set forth in 33 CFR Parts 325 and 332 and 40 CFR Part 230. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 115.
So moved.
Vice Chair Orenshaw has moved to amend and do pass Senate Bill 115. Senator Goycochea has seconded that. Members, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And if I could please ask, I will do the floor statement for that. Next on the document is Senate Bill 165. Mr. McDonald, please.
Senate Bill 165 revises provisions related to businesses engaged in the development of emerging technologies. This was sponsored by Senator Spearman and Krasner and others and heard in this committee on March 8th. This bill creates the Emerging Technologies Task Force within the Department of Business and Industry. The bill requires the task force to develop strategies and make recommendations regarding attracting businesses that are engaged in the development of emerging technologies and encouraging the growth of such businesses. We have no amendments on this measure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Senate Bill 165. Senator Daly has moved to do pass Senate Bill 165. Vice Chair has seconded that. Members, any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Please.
I really like the bill. I appreciate Senator Spearman's work, Senator Krasner as a co-sponsor. There's one section that I just have a couple questions about I want to discuss with the sponsor, so I just want to reserve my right to possibly change on the floor. But I do want to support it out of the committee and let the full Senate get the chance to consider it.
Members, any discussion? Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And we will have Senator Spearman do the floor statement. Next on the work session document is Senate Bill 166. Mr. McDonald, please.
Senate Bill 166 revises provisions related to collective bargaining by public employees. This was sponsored by Senator Pazina and others and heard in this committee on March 6th. This bill allows law enforcement supervisors to engage in collective bargaining and to create collective bargaining units separate from employees they supervise. The bill also excludes certain employees who provide civilian support services to a law enforcement agency from being deemed supervisory employees solely due to the exercise of certain duties. We did have one amendment proposed for this measure. This was brought to us by Senator Pazina, and the amendment proposes to provide for separate bargaining units for supervisory employees who are Category 1, 2, and 3 peace officers and supervisory employees who are firefighters. And that amendment's on the next page. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 166.
So moved.
Vice Chair has moved to amend and do pass Senate Bill 166. Senator Krasner has seconded that. Members, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And Senator Pazina, if we could please have you do the floor statement. She will gladly do it. Senator Pazina will do the floor statement on 166. Next, we have Senate Bill 169.
Senate Bill 169 revises provisions governing master plans. This bill was sponsored by this committee on behalf of the Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources and was heard on March 13th. The bill requires the master plan in a county whose population is 100,000 or more to include a heat mitigation element. The bill also sets forth requirements for the heat mitigation element of a master plan, including the plan to provide heat mitigation services such as cooling spaces, public drinking water, shade over paved surfaces, and urban tree canopies. We did receive two amendments on this measure. Assemblyman Watts proposes to amend the meaning of shade over paved surfaces to include drought-tolerant trees and to change the effective date of July 1, 2023 to July 1, 2024. The second amendment was sponsored by Clark County, and this amendment proposes to amend the bill to make the definition of items to consider as a heat mitigation element in a master plan permissive. That's all we have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 169. Vice Chair Orenshaw has made the motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 169. Senator Daly has seconded that. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. The floor statement, if I could please have Vice Chair Orenshaw. Vice Chair Orenshaw will do the floor statement on 169. Next, we have Senate Bill 208.
Senate Bill 208 authorizes counties and cities to enact certain ordinances related to battery charged fences. This was sponsored by Senator Flores, Stone, and others, and heard in this committee on March 22nd. The bill authorizes a governing body of a county or city to enact an ordinance that regulates battery charged fences. The bill prohibits the ordinance from requiring a permit for the installation or use of a battery charged fence that is in addition to an alarm system permit issued by the county or city, imposes installation or operational requirements for a battery charged fence that are consistent with the standards set forth in the International Electrotechnical Commission, and prohibits the installation or use of a battery charged fence. We did have one amendment for this bill. This was also discussed in the hearing. If you recall, Mr. Delap proposes to change may to shall in subsection 1 of section 1 to require governing bodies of a city or county to enact an ordinance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 208.
Second.
Senator Goycochea has made the motion, and Vice Chair has seconded that. Members, any discussion? I will very quickly just make the point that I have had an opportunity to discuss with some folk this particular bill, which is mine, and I am committed to continue to work with them, as I know they were trying to create zones within local jurisdictions to potentially allow for the fences in maybe areas where they wouldn't. Not saying that I'm going to do that, but I am wanted to make it abundantly clear that some folk were trying to work with us, and I am willing to continue to do that over on the Assembly once the bill moves over there. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. I will do the floor statement on Senate Bill 208. Next, we have Senate Bill 210.
Senate Bill 210 revises provisions governing state boards and commissions. This bill was sponsored by this committee on behalf of the Legislative Commission, specifically the Sunset Subcommittee of the Legislative Commission, and heard on March 27th. This bill declares it as the public policy of the state that appointments made by the governor to boards, commissions, or similar bodies must, to the extent practicable and except as otherwise required by law, represent the diversity of the state. The bill also requires boards, commissions, and similar bodies to submit to the governor a list of persons qualified for membership on such a board, commission, or similar body within 60 days after a vacancy occurs. Additionally, Senate Bill 210 requires the Legislative Commission to appoint the chair and vice chair of the Sunset Subcommittee, and requires the subcommittee to review not less than 3 professional or occupational licensing boards and regulatory bodies regarding restrictions on criminal histories. We do not have any amendments on this bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Senate Bill 210. Vice Chair has made the motion to do pass Senate Bill 210. Do we have a second? Senator Goycochea has seconded that. Members, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And if I may ask Senator Krasner to please do the floor statement. Senator Krasner will do the floor statement for Senate Bill 210. Next on the agenda is Senate Bill 261.
Senate Bill 261 revises provisions relating to local governments. This was sponsored by Senator Neal and heard in this committee on March 20th. This bill requires a governing body of a local government to notify chambers of commerce of any proposed rule that is likely to impose a direct and significant economic burden upon a business or directly restrict the formation, operation, or expansion of a business. The bill further requires, with certain exceptions, that a governing body of a local government hold not less than 1 workshop to solicit comments from persons on 1 or more general topics to be addressed in the proposed rule. And then finally, the measure requires business impact statements to include the total number of businesses likely to be affected by the rule, a list of chambers of commerce and trade associations notified of the proposed rule, and a summary of any workshop held regarding the rule. We did have one amendment proposed by Clark County. which proposes to restore deleted language in subsection 3, allowing fees negotiated pursuant to a contract between a business and local government to be exempted from the definition of rule. In addition, the amendment requires a county to hold a workshop if requested by 2 or more chambers of commerce. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 261.
So moved.
Vice Chair Orenshaw has made the motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 261. Do we have a second? Senator Daly has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I guess I'm just looking at the amendment. And again, now, you only have to have the workshop if it is requested by 2 or more chambers and/or, I assume, trade associations. Is that correct?
And I know we don't have our bill sponsor here, but I do see Ms. Jacobs. Please.
Thank you, Chair Flores. I'll go ahead, with your permission, to address this. Yes, Senator Goycochea, the intent was, and it's actually on the backside of the amendment, the intent is to include both chambers of commerce and trade associations. So it would be associated with the notification and then to all the impacted businesses, and then if requested by 2 entities, either a chamber of commerce and a trade association, 2 entities, then we would hold the workshop. That's the intent of the amendment.
Otherwise, you wouldn't hold a workshop at all. Is that how I read it? You could.
Yes.
You could avoid having a workshop if you weren't asked to have it. All right, thank you.
Yes, correct, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And thank you for that question. And just, I think the conceptual amendment reads only if requested, and I think that's where the emphasis is. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs, for coming up. Members, any additional comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And Senator Neal will do the floor statement. Next, we have Senate Bill 264.
Senate Bill 264 revises provisions related to collective bargaining. This bill was sponsored by Senator Donate and others and heard in this committee on March 20th. The bill provides that a police officer, sheriff, deputy sheriff, any other law enforcement officer, or a civilian who provides support services to a law enforcement agency may be a member of an employee organization only if the employee organization is composed exclusively of law enforcement officers and civilians who provide support services to a law enforcement agency. And we did have one amendment proposed by Mr. McCann that proposes to change "and" to "or" in subsection 3 of section 1. That was discussed in the hearing. Subsequent to the hearing, we received another amendment that is included on the next page that you can take a look at. And that amendment limits the application of the measure to include any civilian employee of a metropolitan police department with sole jurisdiction over more than one municipality. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 264.
Move amended, do pass.
Vice Chair Orenshaw has made the motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 264. Do I have a second? Senator Goycochea has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously, and we will have Senator Doñate do the floor statement. Next, we have Senate Bill 319.
Senate Bill 319 revises provisions relating to public employees. This was sponsored by Senators Harris and Spearman and others and heard in this committee on March 27th. This bill adds persons who are employed as Category 1, 2, or 3 peace officers in the unclassified service of the state to be added to the definition of employee for the purposes of collective bargaining. And we have no amendments on this measure. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Senate Bill 319. Senator Daly has made the motion to do pass Senate Bill 319. Do I have a second? Senator Goycochea has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And we will ask Senator Harris to do the floor statement. Last on the work session document is Senate Bill 331.
Senate Bill 331 revises provisions relating to state and local emergency management plans. This was sponsored by Senator Scheibel and heard on March 27th. This bill requires emergency management plans prepared by the governor or adopted by a political subdivision or local organization for emergency management to designate at least one shelter to accommodate persons with pets, and to the extent practicable, include provisions for the evacuation, transport, and shelter of persons with pets. And we have no amendments on this bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Senate Bill 331. Senator Daley has made the motion to do pass Senate Bill 331. Do I have a second? Second. Vice Chair Orenshaw has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chair, if I may. And, I think this is a great bill. I would like to see something maybe in there. I'll talk to the bill sponsors, get to the other side, but, maybe some domestic animals as well. In a true emergency, that gets to be an issue. What do you do with your horse? Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously, and we will have Senator Scheibel do the floor statement for Senate Bill 331. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Appreciate you walking us through all that. And next, we will move to our bill hearings. And we will start off with Senate Bill 156, which revises the open meeting law and will be presented by our very own Vice Chair.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the Senate Government Affairs Committee. For the record, my name is James Orenshaw. I represent State Senate District 21 down in Southern Nevada. And I want to thank you, Chair, thank you, members, for hearing Senate Bill 156. With me on Zoom, I'm very lucky to have Haley Tansman from the Uniform Law Commission. I've also got Reno City Councilwoman Jenny Breckus and Clark County Commissioner Tick Sagerblum. Haley Tansman is here to help give some background and history and rationale as to why Senate Bill 156. And Commissioner Sagerblum, Councilwoman Breckus, they're the genesis of the amendment, which you should see on Nellis. I had conversations with them about this legislation, and they were interested in some changes to the open meeting law, which are represented in that amendment. So with your permission, Chair, they'll both walk through that. Senate Bill 156 comes out of the Uniform Law Commission. The Uniform Law Commission, which many of us have seen, many of the Uniform Acts, was first formed in 1892. It's also referred to as the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws. Back in 1892, legislators and attorneys across state lines said, there are certain areas where state statutes really should be uniform. They're great to have different state statutes on many different subjects, great for states to have their own positions on different issues, but there are certain areas of the law where uniformity across state lines is beneficial to our constituents as they live in our state, as they might move to another state, as they might have issues regarding custody, divorce agreements. Probably the most famous product of the Uniform Law Commission is the Uniform Commercial Code, which really made it possible for checks and other negotiable instruments to be accepted across the country. And it wasn't so easy before the Uniform Commercial Code got passed in many states. Senate Bill 156, the idea of that comes from a drafting committee, the Uniform Law Commissioners, and it's called the Model Public Meetings During Emergencies Act. It's a bill which I believe really will protect our constituents if, heaven forbid, we have another situation like we did during COVID. If there's a situation where public bodies are not able to have meetings in person. We're so blessed here now that we can meet in person and get back to having meetings the way we used to. And I have to take my hat off to Director Brenda Erdos and Deputy Director Wilkerson, all the staff here at the Legislative Council Bureau, because when COVID hit and we were trying to convert to an online system so that people could participate, they pretty much invented how we did it. And it's a tremendous job that Director Erdos and the staff did in being able to allow our constituents to participate when we couldn't meet in person. Senate Bill 156, the goal of this bill is that if something like that ever happens again, we will have the statutory framework where not only legislative hearings, but meetings of other public bodies, boards, and commissions would be able to conduct their business online, and the public would be able to participate online, to observe online, and that the votes would count during a declared emergency. With that, Chair, I would like to briefly walk through the bill, and then if I could turn it over to Haley Tansman, and then to Councilwoman Breckus and Commissioner Sager-Bloom.
Thank you.
Senate Bill 156 revises provisions regarding our Nevada open meeting law during the time of an emergency declaration and amends provisions related to remote public meetings. The provisions would take effect under this legislation if the emergency declaration prohibits, limits, or has the effect of prohibiting or limiting in-person meetings, or the presiding officer of a public body has determined that it is not practical to conduct an in-person meeting. The provisions of Senate Bill 156 would allow for a public body to conduct a meeting using remote technology systems. To the extent possible, the technology system being used must be compatible with assistive technology used by people with disabilities and that facilitates the accommodation of needs of persons with disabilities. The remote technology system shall allow each member to see and hear and to be seen and heard by other members of the meeting. If the public body lacks the capacity to provide this service, it may conduct the meeting by audio-only access. And the bill provides that if for some reason they're not able to have the video, the audio would work, and that would still count if a member of that body needs to vote and only audio is working and not video. Members joining the meeting in this manner would be counted as present and would need to state their name each time they speak under the act, if joining by audio only. A primary function of this bill is to ensure that everyone has equal access to participate in that meeting as they would if the meeting were in person. Lastly, this bill authorizes the Attorney General's office to adopt regulations to carry out the provisions mentioned in the bill. And with your permission, Chair, if I could turn it over to Haley Tansman and Councilwoman Breckus and Commissioner Sager-Bloom. And then I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Vice President Orenshaw, and good afternoon, Chair Flores, Vice Chair Orenshaw, and members of the committee. My name is Haley Tansman, and I serve as a legislative counsel for the Uniform Law Commission. While most laws promulgated by the ULC are intended to be uniform laws adopted with no or minimal changes, the ULC periodically will draft a model law, and these are acts which a state may tailor to fit its individual needs. Senate Bill 156 is based on one of those acts, the Model Public Meetings During Emergencies Act. This act was promulgated by the ULC in 2022 after a multi-year drafting process, which was, as you might imagine, sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic. As you may well remember, public bodies such as your own that might have been a little presumptive, but we're scrambling to figure out how to meet remotely while still complying with state and local open meeting laws. Emergency orders were issued to permit such meetings and provide some guidance, but these orders often were inconsistent, insufficient, and only applied to the specific emergency. This Model Act addresses many of these issues by creating a framework for virtual or remote meetings by public bodies, which are triggered by an emergency declaration, which might render in-person meetings impossible or inadvisable. This act gives actions taken by a public body in such a meeting the same effect as an action taken in an in-person meeting. It also allows participants and observers the same privileges they would have in an in-person meeting and requires the requisite technology to exercise such privileges. Members of the public must be able to observe a meeting contemporaneously, and those authorized to speak must be able to be seen and heard, or if the meeting is audio only, to be heard. This act also importantly includes provisions for participants requiring assistive technology by requiring a remote technology system to the extent practicable to be compatible with assistive technology. And this was often omitted in many emergency orders during the COVID-19 pandemic. This act is not intended to be overly burdensome upon public bodies. The drafters recognize the chaotic and shifting circumstances which may necessitate these meetings. Rather, it is intended to provide much-needed guidelines for conducting remote meetings during a declared state of emergency. When an emergency declaration is in effect, which will hopefully be few and far between in the future, there is no need to reinvent the wheel. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you so much to Vice Chair Orenshall for his work in drafting Senate Bill 156. I welcome any questions.
With your permission, Chair, to go over the amendment, I wonder if we could go to Councilwoman Breckus and Commissioner Sagerblum.
Yes. May I start, sir?
Please do.
Okay. Thank you, Chair and committee members, for the opportunity to testify. My name is Jenny Breckus. I'm a Reno City Council member. I speak in favor of amendments number 2 and 3 that I think you have in conceptual form, and I thank the bill sponsor for inclusion of those. My support for Amendment 2 derives from an unfortunate experience. In July of last year, I was told to leave a meeting of the Reno City Council that was held in conjunction with meetings of the Washoe County Commission and the Sparks City Council on a topic of regional importance. The reason I was told to leave the meeting was because the meeting was an all virtual meeting. In my objection to being told to leave the meeting and the chambers, I pointed out that COVID protocols had all expired and that there was an audience present. I also expressed my understanding that there was not a statutory allowance for an all virtual meeting of a governing body. Nonetheless, the staff present told me to go home, which I did, and logged in from my home office on my laptop. That evening, I filed an open meeting law complaint with the Attorney General's office that remains unresolved. While I have little doubt that a violation occurred and am surprised that the office has not reached conclusion on that over these many months, I think refined statutory language is warranted. At the local level, we meet year-round and are the government level closest to the people. We have a heavy workload involving decisions that often impact people at the neighborhood level. While I appreciate the longstanding provision that allows for remote participation and have called in a few times, I choose to participate in person in recognition of the impactful decisions we make. I feel I owe that to those who sent me to City Hall to represent them. The amendment specifies that an elected official have agency to decide how to participate, whether in person or remotely. This distinction is critical and necessary because in Reno's example, the authority to prepare a meeting agenda is delegated to the city manager, who is unelected, in consultation with the mayor. In another jurisdiction, like a county commissioner, it might be a county manager or a chair. The amendment ensures that views of a board's minority members are not confined to tiny Zoom screens, but able to speak freely in government buildings where the people's business is conducted. In summary, please support this important distinction to the OML that would apply in non-emergency situations. Few elected officials I know have signed up to be remote workers. With respect to the third amendment pertaining to disclosure of a member's location, I think it strikes a welcome balance. Last session, there was reasonable concern that in liberalizing remote participation, there may be abuse. In short, elected officials might avoid physically appearing face-to-face to absorb the disapproval of an impacted public, or just to be reclusive. Or in this world of multitasking, want to engage simultaneously in other activities. The disclosure allows for a level of transparency and accountability for the public to make up their own minds about a member's attendance practices. For example, if someone is consistently out of town or out of state, it might beg the question if the individual is sufficiently local enough to serve on a local body. Alternatively, if an official routinely participates from the home jurisdiction but can't make it down to the chambers, it raises a question if the person is fully vested in the issues at hand. In either case, the public or political opponents will have information to evaluate a member's engagement to the duties of office. Thank you for listening to me, and I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Do we have Commissioner Sagerblum joining us as well?
Chair Flores, Commissioner Sagerblum let me know that he would be appearing by Zoom, and I hope he's there. But if he's not, I can certainly try to represent the concerns he told me about. Part 1, or bullet 1 of the amendment is from a recommendation from Commissioner Sagerblum, asking that there be an exemption from the open meeting law for a subcommittee of a governing body of a local government unless any action taken by the subcommittee would be binding on the entire governing body. Any action taken by a subcommittee of a governing body must be referred to that entire governing body for final action. The governing body must consider any action taken by that subcommittee in a meeting that would be subject to Chapter 241 in the open meeting law. For purposes of this amendment, a subcommittee would be less than a quorum of the membership of the entire body. And the concern that Commissioner Sagerblum represented to me was that there was some need he felt for subcommittees to get information about certain issues, and that he felt currently under the current statutory structure, it became very cumbersome for subcommittees of the entire body to have that meeting. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And Commissioner Sagerblum, if you're having issues with Zoom, but you're following along, feel free to call in, and I'm sure our team can have you connected via phone. So with that, members, we'll open it up for questions. Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess I just want to make sure that, now, it takes an emergency declaration before this to take place.
To you, Chair, and through you to Senator Goycochea, Senate Bill 156, as I understand it, the emergency provisions which would allow for participation and the whole virtual meetings to go into place, here would need to be, there'd need to be a declaration of an emergency under Chapter 414, as we had after the COVID.
Yeah, whether it be by the state or even local government could declare a state of emergency. I believe a local government could declare one, correct? A state of emergency under, I don't know the chapters you cited, but they clearly have the ability.
Through you, Chair, to Senator Goycochea, I believe, yes, that's true. They would also have that ability. If there was a state declaration, it would be under Chapter 414, the emergency, declaration chapter and preparedness. But
Okay.
a local government body could also declare that under this.
I just want to make sure that we're not putting something in place and then down the road we decide, well, it's easier to do it virtual. And so even though there wasn't a state of emergency, start holding meetings, because I think it is more difficult to do it online. Public meetings should be open public meetings, and we're not avoiding that other than in an emergency situation.
And through you, Chair, to Senator Goycochea, certainly Senate Bill 56, I think, builds upon Assembly Bill 70 of the 2019 session, Assembly Bill 253, Assemblywoman Considine's bill in 2021, allowing for remote technology to be used. But here, it would only be during that emergency situation under Senate Bill 156, under this bill.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Senator, I do see Commissioner Sagerblum has joined us. I don't know if you want to go to him, or do you prefer that we continue with the questions?
With your indulgence, Chair, if Commissioner Sagerblum could speak a little bit to the issues regarding the need for the amendment to the open meeting law, and then I'm happy to answer any more questions.
Sounds good. Commissioner Sagerblum, I don't know if you can hear us.
I apologize profusely. Anyway, Zoom is not my forte, although I do it a ton. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I asked Senator Orenshaw to propose this amendment to deal with a specific issue that I've encountered here at Clark County, but I know a lot of other local governments are encountering, and that is that we aren't allowed to have subcommittees without complying with open meeting law. And when you do that, it basically makes it untenable. And so I propose this amendment, which would say that we can create subcommittees which have to be less than a quorum. So we wouldn't be able to vote on anything that would make bind the commission or the city council or the school board or whatever agency you're talking about. But it would allow us to meet, to evaluate things, to conduct budget hearings, to just be more involved in local government without having to worry about whether we comply with open meeting law or not. But if we made any recommendation or took any vote that might potentially bind our entity, then that would have to go to the full body, and that body would have to hold a public hearing. So nothing would just go automatically to be approved. But what happens right now is staff makes all kinds of decisions, presents it to us at our meetings. It's on the consent agenda. We just vote up or down, and we don't even know what most of the time what's happening. And this would allow, in my opinion, for us to form subcommittees, which we could actually get involved in, for example, budget details. As you know, in the legislature, if somebody wants to buy a trash can, you guys are on it. You look at every little penny that's spent. We look at millions of dollars and just approve it randomly because we just don't have time to get involved. And then the other issue about this is we're involved in a lot of interagencies, like Southern Nevada Housing Authority, where somebody from Henderson, somebody from North Las Vegas, somebody from Las Vegas and Clark County are all involved. So we only meet once a month, and we don't have time to really get involved as a full body. But again, if we had a subcommittee, we could arguably get involved and learn the details. And what prompted this was we actually had created subcommittees at the Housing Authority, where I was in charge of trying to analyze what the Housing Authority does and its day-to-day business. And somebody filed a complaint, and so we had to shut down those little meetings, even though we weren't making any decisions, but they violated the open meeting law. So it would make life so much easier and actually kind of conform to what you guys do in the legislature.
Thank you, Commissioner, for joining us. I think we do have some questions for you. Senator Daley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Mr. Commissioner Sagerblum. So yeah, I didn't have any questions with the bill as it was written, and I heard the testimony on 2 and 3, but I do have concerns with the one that you're suggesting here now. So you said it became untenable, and I know you gave a little explanation on a housing authority committee. My concern with this subcommittee deal is that less and less would be done in the public body and more would be done in an exempt subcommittee. I just don't know how you reconcile the two things. And then what type of things are going to be done in the subcommittees that can't be done in a public meeting. And if you got questions, go to your staff and ask the questions, or don't pass things until you have all the information you need. I mean, there's no requirement for you to vote for anything in the open meeting until you have all the information. I just am concerned that if this goes through, and I would be suspect of the abuse, that more and more would be done in a non-public subcommittee, and then you would just come in and you'd have zero discussion in the public meetings and vote things out with no discussion. And that's what I've seen a lot of times with other bodies I've been to. So I'm just trying to figure out what it is we're going to solve here without creating a bigger problem in my mind.
Yeah, and truthfully, when I was in the legislature, that's exactly what I would have thought. But so let me just give you an example. Right now, we're going through the budget cycle. We have the budget of the police department, the district attorney, the airport, the water authority, the water reclamation, numerous, billions of dollars worth of money. What happens is my staff the district attorney will present a budget to my staff. My staff will work with them, come up with what they think is reasonable, and put it on our agenda. And we have an agenda which is 20 pages long, and the consent agenda is 15 of those pages. And honestly, we never question, well, what the district attorney, what was his budget last year? What's the budget this year? How many positions does he want? Did he spend that money wisely? How many death penalty cases did he do? We just don't have the ability with 7 people to get involved in that. And the flip side is if we had a subcommittee of 3, then to put notice on that, which required an open meeting law, like a week ahead of time, we have to have a court reporter, we have to have public comment before, public comment afterwards. And all we're going to be doing is hearing from the district attorney why he or she wants to do what they want to do, and so we can then pass that along to the full body. But it's basically puts us in the same position that staff is in right now. And that's my reason I brought this is, to me, staff, and not blaming them, that's what I would do if I were staff. But the truth is they really run these local governments because we don't have, as elected officials, have the time or the ability to get into the weeds like they do. And this would give us that chance. Now, just so you know, I mean, the reality is right now I can sit down with two of my fellow commissioners and call the district attorney in and have a meeting in my office and grill him like this. But if I tried to do it in a formal way, then I violate the open meeting law. So it doesn't make a lot of sense logistically, and it from my perspective, it really is a disservice to how we do government. Again, what I'm proposing is if under my scenario, the district attorney's budget was brought to the subcommittee said, yeah, that looks good, then the full 7 members of my commission would have that subcommittee. We would have a public hearing on that so we could actually talk about what his proposal was before, what his proposal is afterwards, but not require all 7 members to sit through an hour of the district attorney's budget. I mean, in the legislature, you don't all sit down and go through every agency in the government. You have Ways and Means or you have Finance. So that's the concept. But that's my observation, and from what I've seen in the last 4 years, and I think it would make local government, might make us elected officials much more involved in the process.
Next, we'll go to Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess I'm kind of struggling with this, and maybe we need to talk to legal, but you know, in your situation where you've got 7 members, technically you can have 3 members discussing an issue and not be in violation. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. But if we formalized it and brought it in, so the district attorney sat down and we had a formal discussion, then it's a scheduled meeting. Then it's an open meeting violation. But if I called up the district attorney and said, Commissioner Kirkpatrick and Commissioner Jones, come join me, we're going to ask the district attorney some questions, that's no violation. So the reality is we could do it. It's much more cumbersome to do it that way than it would be to have a formal, what we call a subcommittee, and we schedule a meeting to meet with them.
Well, truly, though, again, if I may, Mr. Chair, it looks to me like, though, at the point you did schedule a subcommittee with staff, at that point, it clearly would be, I think you'd have to comply with the open meeting law. You can have 3 of you in a meeting with staff, and I think at this point it's legal, so I'll just leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mr. Commissioner Sagerbloom. I almost called you Tick.
That's okay. Everybody calls me Tick down here.
Members, any additional questions? Senator, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members, for your time. Appreciate you hearing the bill.
Thank you so much. And if your permission, I'll go ahead and get off.
Perfect. If I could have you sit back, and at this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support, either in Carson City or Las Vegas. Seeing none. I'm sorry. I see somebody in Las Vegas. My apologies. Whoever wishes to go first, please.
David Gomez, Nevada Peace Alliance president. I wanted to share my support and for Commissioner Tick Sigerboom, who has been instrumental in our community and in our areas, and being a leader in our areas where he comes out and he talks to people and he knows what's best for us and the county and many other levels of understanding. Thank you.
And
my name is Al Rojas. I live in Senate District 21, Assembly District 12, and part of my assembly is with Tick Sigerboom, and the other is with Commissioner Kirkpatrick. I support Tick Sigerboom. I trust his judgment. We made an agreement, even though we're on different sides of the political spectrum, me being a Republican, him being a Democrat. We know that our community, the safety and the efficiency is a bipartisan effort. And he's done many things in our area. He held a fantastic Easter event over at Lewis Park in our area. I missed him. I wish I could have saw him there. But anyhow, I do support, and I do believe that doing things through Zoom or making it more efficient to run our government so he can come out and do more for our community is definitely a step in the right direction, and I support him 100% on this issue. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else in Las Vegas? Seeing none, we will go to the phone to those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 156.
You would like to testify in support of SB 156, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon. This is Anna Binder, ANNABINDER, for the record. I am in complete favor of this. I did get a tad confused during all of the testimony, but I sit on 3 governor councils and a couple of local committees in the state. And virtual meetings have been a lifesaver for gathering lots of people, not just since the pandemic, but post. So I want to give my support because I think that every entity in the state of Nevada is capable of broadcasting and allowing virtual participation, which increases participation. So I'm all for any avenue of that. So thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 156.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
We will stay on the phone. Is there anybody wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 156?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 156, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Partee, P as in Paul, A-R, T as in Tom, E-E. I'm going to oppose SB 156, the open meeting law, because I'm glad that Senator Orenshaw is concerned that if there's an emergency, then we need to have an audio-video access for legislative staff as well as the constituents. But I can't stress enough that the constituents really need to be allowed to participate just as much as the legislative staff, and that there should be more than reasonable steps taken to notify the public. I feel that the legislative body needs to include themselves in this law, as I feel notice for many bills was highly abused at 24 hours or less notice this session. Reasonable notice remotely and in person. I appreciate Senator Goicoechea questioning the legislative body so as not to abuse the emergency powers to mainly push for online versus in-person hearings. The past emergency declaration was also abused during the last session, and the public was really left out of that participation process. And so I oppose this until the legislature includes themselves with at least reasonable notice, more than 24 hours notice, next session. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Anyone else wishing to testify in opposition over the phone on Senate Bill 156?
Tanya Brown, TONJABROWN, inmates, advocates for the inmates and the innocent. We are in opposition of this bill, but we do support the bill, and we would like to echo the comments just previously made by Ms. Partee. We have a concern dealing with the sections 10 and 11. It deals with the public, and we would like to see language included that would include the minutes. And I will tell you that some of the board meetings that we attend, particularly the Pardons Board, if you go in under the public comment, it is not reflected in the minutes. So anybody looking at the minutes that pass, it appears that nobody spoke under the public comment, what they had to say, or any documents that may have been presented. But it does reflect those who attended, such as the inmates. And this is one of the concerns. We're all about sunshine in government. Allow the public to be known that they spoke, what they had to say and become a part of all of this, the community and our concerns, and not leave it blank as though nobody was ever there, nobody testified for or against. And so based on that, we are in opposition, but we do support the bill. We want to thank Senator Orenshaw for bringing this forward. Thank you.
And thank you. Next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 156.
Hi, Katrina Ivanov, AVANOFF. I am opposing the bill as written. If there's some changes to the bill, I like the idea to be able to do it on Zoom. However, Mr. Sigelblum said several times that they didn't have time to meet. If they don't have time to meet, don't run for that seat. Leave it for someone that has time to meet and do things. If you need more time, then maybe you should make more meetings under the existing law instead of opening a can of worms. The way the law is written up right now is too many hosts. Their body, the commissioners, they can just announce an emergency anytime they want to and start enacting this law. So the way it is written right now, I'm opposing. I do like the premises that people should have in this day and age, people should be able to do virtual meetings. However, and 24-hour notice is not enough because everybody has their calendars booked up. So the notice, it should be minimum of 2 weeks in advance. There are some serious changes that need to be done to that bill before you guys accept it. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 156.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIEGRANT. My brother Thomas Purdy was murdered by Reno Police and Washoe County Sheriff's Office. I'm calling in opposition to the bill for the fact that it totally leaves the public out. The fact that the public, if they're having a meeting, the public should be able to give public comment. If they cannot show up to a meeting, why can't the public should be the most important priority at any meeting. And I thought it was appalling what happened, unfortunately, to Councilwoman Breckus. I do support the bill in that way, but there was a county commissioner, Kitty Jung, who stayed away forever after COVID was over and totally abused the remote access. But it should be equal access for the public if the elected officials can use it. And I agree with the previous caller that the legislature needs to fall under the open meeting laws as well. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 156.
Caller 020, press star 6 to unmute. Public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Las Vegas, and if there's anybody wishing to speak in opposition here in Carson City, please feel free to occupy these seats. But we'll go to Las Vegas.
Hello, Senators and Chairman. My name is Leslie Quinn, and I am opposing SB 156. The way Senator Orenshaw and the attorney and the other lady explained it was more of a support for me. But then when Mr. Sigerblum explained the actual way it would be used, that moved me more to oppose. I think that if this was used as an exception in an emergency, as it was originally intended, an emergency use only, then that would make sense. But I ditto all the other folks that said the public needs to be able to attend these meetings. And so for right now, it's an oppose. And thank you, Senator Orenshaw, for all your work on this.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas? Seeing none, we will come to Carson City, please.
Pepsi Strasburg. I wasn't going to talk on this particular bill, but after hearing the subcommittee discussion, it reminded me of a meeting I attended in Reno. It was the audit committee. The majority of the members, they did have quorum, but the majority of the members was remote on the line, and the BDO, which is the seventh largest audit company, presented the results with one significant deficiency. Not one of the audit committee members who were remote asked a question. Not even, I didn't even understand if they understood, and I have a finance background, audit background, and whether they understood what significant deficiency meant. That means you screwed up. You screwed up real bad. And it went without comment, and it did not even ask management for a response to the significant deficiency. So that was one situation, and that was the only audit committee meeting I attended in Reno that showed that remote performance is not as well as being there in person. Secondly, emergency has to be a true emergency. During COVID, I was an essential worker, so I had to go to work. We had a special letter that if we were stopped by the police or sheriff, we could show them. I do think public officers are essential workers, and they need to be there. In Carson City, our Board of Commissioners met in person, but during the first 2 months of COVID, the public provided remote testimony. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed by the local government to what is most efficient for them, but remind everybody that remote is not always the most effective, and certainly not having private meetings and subcommittees where you discuss
And thank you.
solutions.
We have hit the
Thank
2-minute
you.
mark. Thank you for joining us. Please.
Richard Nagel for the record, NAGEL. I concur with Betsy Strasburg on a lot of what she said. The way the supervisors in Carson City get around what his problem is they have workshops where they all get together and they have each department that's affected at a workshop. And so the public can make their comment and go on, and they could discuss everything in detail and go through hypothetical examples and such. And then they could get it down to brass tacks and have proposals so they can bring it back to a real meeting. Okay, and that follows open meeting laws. It doesn't, again, circumvent the citizen's right to give testimony on a subject. And this looks like it does in a certain way. So again, take a look at this as, try not to create a block between free speech and a division between the government and the people. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
Casey Rogers for the record. I would just like to echo what both Dolly and I don't know how to pronounce your name, Senator. G. So I'm going to say Senator G. Yeah, I feel like this is kind of like getting rid of the good old town hall. This is the place where we come and testify and give testimony to what we think and believe and feel in. So I absolutely think that y'all need to be here, be present. And then I would just like to echo what Lisa, the first caller, said. And I really appreciated Betsy's testimony too. So thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 156? Seeing none, we will go to those wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 156. Welcome. I don't see anybody in Las Vegas, so we'll start here in Carson City.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the hardworking
Senate Committee on Government Affairs. For the record, my name is Timothy Galuzzi, and I have the pleasure of serving as the State Chief Information Officer and the Enterprise IT Services Division Administrator. Today I'm testifying in the neutral position for SB 156. I would like to extend my appreciation to the bill sponsor, Senator Orenshaw, for introducing this bill and taking the time to discuss this legislation with me throughout the past week. Enterprise IT Services is supportive of efforts to provide our public entities more tools to ensure that Nevadans have access to decision makers and public bodies. Anytime we have the opportunity to increase technological maturity of the executive branch in an economical way that better serves Nevadans is a win in my book. Unfortunately, the executive branch does not have a unit like LCB's Broadcast Services, who are rock stars, by the way. As such, we do not currently have an enterprise-level platform that can support the requirements of open meetings across the executive branch with the considerations included in this legislation, the ADA considerations, public participation, et cetera, included in SB 156. What we have seen in recent years has been a piecemeal approach to how agencies conduct virtual public meetings. There's been a myriad of technology platforms that have caused disparate experiences, not only for the members of the public bodies, but for the constituents that they serve. Often we have seen that well-funded large agencies have more mature meeting platforms, naturally, and smaller entities, such as numerous boards and commissions, must make do with what they can scrounge up. We understand that no matter the size of the entity, members of these boards and commissions are making decisions that impact Nevadans, and thus, Nevadans should have equal access to them. That is why our fiscal note contemplates the introduction of an enterprise-wide platform that would leverage the economies of scale of a statewide licensing model to provide these services as needed to public bodies in keeping with our purpose outlined in NRS 242.071, where it states that EATS is necessary for the coordinated, orderly, and economical processing of information in state government to ensure economical use of information systems and to prevent the unnecessarily proliferation. Thank you again to Senator Orenshaw for introducing this legislation, and thank you, Chair Flores, for the time.
Thank you for joining us. And if there's anything else, please feel free to email those remarks to our committee staff, and I'll make sure they get uploaded. Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 156? We'll go to the phone. BPS, please.
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 156, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
DYRUSHOJJATY. Everybody on all sides made very good points. I'll just echo that. As far as I know, I remember speaking to Commissioner Stickerbloom about how we should be able to call into meetings if we oppose or don't support something on the commission, because I've had a sore throat for the last couple of weeks. So, certainly being in person is not convenient for everybody. Thank you so much. A really interesting, good bill.
And thank you for calling in. Is there anybody else wishing to testify in the neutral position?
Hello, this is Susan Proffitt, PROFFITT from Las Vegas, and I represent the Nevada Republican Club. But maybe I should speak for myself on this one so I don't offend anyone. Maybe somebody likes Tick. But I got to tell you, the first red flag I saw today was the fact that Tick was late and he didn't look well, okay? And while it sounds like a great idea, it's full of holes. It's not appropriate to make life easier for the commissioners when we voted to have them do a job, not stay at home and make it easier for them. And this bill will disenfranchise a huge portion of our population due to language difficulties or age or dexterity, disabilities. I'm disabled. This is a very difficult thing for me to be on Zoom. I still haven't figured out how to use it very well. And I'm always calling in someone younger, you know. So, and another thing, we're supposed to be able to meet with these people face to face to have our grievances with our government. And this takes that completely away from us, and we have no way to hold them accountable, and they don't have to face their constituents. So you're protecting the commissioners. You're not protecting the citizens. This is not a good bill, and I hope you will not pass it, please.
So we will make sure that gets registered for opposition. We are now in neutral. Is there anybody else wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 156?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Vice Chair, any closing remarks, if any?
Chair, James Orenshaw, State Senate District 21. I wonder if Ms. Tansman, if she could be allowed to also make a couple of real brief closing remarks. Senate Bill 156, based on the Model Public Meeting During Emergencies Act promulgated by the Uniform Law Commissioners, would only go into effect if there's a declared emergency. The standards for notice, nothing in the current open meeting law is changed. If anything, I believe there are more robust provisions for notice for people if a meeting has to be conducted using remote technology. And that is found on Section 11, the more robust notice requirements. As to minutes of the meeting, that's mentioned in Section 8 at the top of page 5, as to an even more robust process for keeping minutes for members of the public to observe and participate. There's nothing in Senate Bill 156 that would abridge the public's right to observe and participate. This would only happen during an emergency. And, you know, we struggled during COVID to try to make sure that public meetings would proceed, the public could still participate. This would only go into effect if there was something like that happened where we could not meet in person. And with your indulgence, Chair, if Ms. Tansman could also maybe address some of the comments.
Yes, thank you. Haley Tansman with the Uniform Law Commission. The goal of this bill is to facilitate and to increase public access and to reiterate Senator Orenshaw's comments. This bill applies only in instances of a declared emergency that prohibits or limits in-person meetings. And these are limited circumstances that are outlined in which the declared emergency itself prohibits, limits, or has the effect of prohibiting or limiting an in-person meeting of a public body, or the presiding officer determines that it is not practical or prudent for the public body to conduct a meeting, communicates to members of the public body that the meeting will be conducted by means of remote technology, and takes reasonable steps to inform members of the public that the meeting will be conducted by means of a remote technology system. As written, the public is given access to remote meetings, and an additional notice requirement delineates the technology to be used. And for Section 9, members of the public must be able to observe the meeting contemporaneously and be able to speak if authorized. Also, in a declared state of emergency in which a meeting in person is just not possible, when practicable, assistive technology must be available for those requiring it. Again, this applies to situations in which an emergency declaration prohibits or limits an in-person meeting. Frankly, I think some of the testimony in opposition is not relevant to situations in which an emergency declaration is in effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. Appreciate your consideration of Senate Bill 156. Thank you.
And thank you, Vice Chair. And with that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 156. And next, we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 155.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. I am still James Orenshaw, representing State Senate District 21, and I appreciate your hearing, Senate Bill 155. There are several amendments, and I've been working very closely with Lilith Barone from the ACLU of Nevada. Come up and a lot of other stakeholders. And I'd actually ask members of the committee to please look at the amendment, the latest amendment, because we've been trying to address a lot of concerns of stakeholders. I believe that Senate Bill 155 certainly is meant to address a problem that has grown so much, all parts of the state. But as a native Las Vegan, certainly growing up the 70s, 80s, now, I've never seen so many people struggling and unhoused as we have down in Southern Nevada. Senate Bill 155, as originally written, dealt with the issue of ordinances that would allow someone who is homeless to be cited or arrested for the status of being unhoused, which I don't believe helps solve the problem of helping someone land back on their feet or helping them find the housing they need, find the services they need. Having a criminal case, and I understand these are very rare. It's very rare. I've had the opportunity to meet with law enforcement. It's very rare that these citations and or arrests ever happen solely for that, where there are local ordinances. But I believe that there's a lot we can do. There's a lot we are doing this session. Certainly there are multiple bills out there to try to help people get back on their feet, find housing, find the services they need. And with that in mind, I've been working with Lilith and with the ACLU, with a lot of other stakeholders on the amendment that you see on Ellis. And with your indulgence, Chair, if I could turn it over to Lilith, and then I'm happy to answer any questions about the original bill and the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. Chair and members of the committee, I would like to thank you for your attention today. I understand you've all had a very long day. However, I believe that this issue deserves our attention right now, and I think that it's good that we're hearing it on a Friday because we'll have some things to think about this weekend. We have worked closely with some of the court judges who do directly see this outcome that we're hoping to see statewide, and I do want to make sure that they have time to present to you because no one really knows better these issues than the judges that are behind us. There is another amendment, and if you would like to just completely do this to start, that would probably be the best way to go. So I would like to start by talking about how we started this, how we came up with this, because these solutions are not easy to come by. However, they do exist. Homelessness is not a societal whoopsie. It is a policy choice that we all are complicit in making when we do not take the time to think about this complex issue at the nature that it exists in many ways. People have many different needs when it comes to housing, and this bill in particular was probably sparked 2 years ago, the day after Sine Die, where myself and friends decided to start a protest outside of the city of Reno City Council for 8 days straight, where we slept outside. And it has been a very long 2-year road, and I am happy to say that we are sitting here now with some of the judges who presided over the case that we got out of that protest. So we have really come full circle here in a way that I never imagined we would, to come up with some real solutions as to how we are going to get your unhoused constituents housed and with the care that they need so that we can have a Nevada that we are all proud of. I'm also not a PC person, so excuse me for my fumbling on the slides. Okay, so there are some numbers here. I believe you've heard them before. I will run through them quickly, but I will say that the number here that is not displayed is 276. That is how many unhoused individuals died in 2022 that we know of from exposure to either too hot or too cold, from overdoses, from preventable ways, preventable things that we could have definitely saved lives for. In Las Vegas, it was over 200, and in Washoe County, it was over 90. So in Nevada, the rate of homelessness is 22.5 individuals per 10,000 people, and the national average is 17.7 per 10,000 people. According to the 2020 annual homeless assessment report to Congress, there were an estimated 7,586 individuals experiencing homelessness on a single night in January, which this January it got in the teens and the negative teens. And I myself have experienced the loss of other community members that I know and got to see every day that quite frankly froze to death on our streets because of an inability to pass sensible policy around this issue. The National Coalition for Homelessness reports that 1 in 3 homeless individuals have been fined, arrested, or criminally charged for sleeping in public. It is well known through the Federal Interagency Council on Homelessness that it is 3 times more expensive to address this in a criminal manner rather than as a public health issue using housing first best practices. Some municipalities are issuing fines. For instance, Washoe has recently proposed a $500 fine or jail time for people that are simply existing in public spaces, perpetuating the cycle of homelessness. Nobody wants to see these people continue being on a hamster wheel, going from outside to the jail or to the hospital or death. I think that all of us could agree that this is a bipartisan issue that we would like to see us do better on. In fact, George W. Bush is one of the first people to enact housing for first methods for our country. Many homeless individuals struggle with a myriad of issues, financial instability, and do not have the means to pay these fines. We already know that. It is quite clear that people are not sleeping outside for fun. Addressing these underlying causes and offering support like resources to individuals reduce the likelihood of future offenses and save states a lot of money. You do have with you a report from the Interagency Council on Homelessness, which states that some cities have seen savings of up to $25 million by enacting sensible policies around dealing with the unhoused population. Diversion courts are some of the most wonderful tools that we have to deal with folks who are experiencing homelessness on the front end before they continue the cycle of poverty. So a study that was published in the Journal of Substance Abuse Treatment in 2017 found that veterans who participated in veteran treatment courts had lower rates of recidivism and were more likely to complete treatment programs compared to veterans who went through traditional court processes. And a report by the National Drug Court Institute found that adult drug courts had an average graduation rate of 60%, and that graduates of drug courts were less likely to reoffend. We'll hear more from the judges on these courts as they are the experts. In 2015, a study by the Urban Institute found that diversion programs offering alternatives to our incarceration for low-level offenders can reduce recidivism rates and save costs for criminal justice systems. These diversion programs can reduce the likelihood of reoffending by up to 17%, though I would argue that the number is higher. The National Association of Drug Court Professionals reports that family drug courts, which focus on helping parents with substance abuse issues, can reunite them with their children and have high success rates. And we are lucky and fortunate in Nevada to have several of these courts available to us already existing. Senate Bill 155, I would like to just look at the amendment if possible, and I'll walk through it because I do want to make sure that everyone gets time. This is the entire bill right now, okay? So we are exempting people experiencing homelessness that were convicted of misdemeanors that are commonly associated with being homeless from paying fines and fees related to these offenses, and instead forcing the powers that be to make solution-based decisions to help these people. We are no longer in an age where we think that ticketing individuals is going to help them be housed, is going to help them stop doing drugs, is going to address their mental health issues. This does force courts and law enforcement to solve the problem the person is experiencing, which is not the offense that they're being ticketed for. This would include These are all misdemeanors, public nuisances, unlawful entry of occupancy of a vacant dwelling, carts used in retail stores and laundries, destruction of property, vagrancy, trespassing. Others that I could name are sleeping on a park bench after hours, which is the ticket that, or sleeping in a park after hours, which is the ticket I received when starting this effort, and having an open container is also another one. These are not things that people do for fun. These are things that people do to survive. People are sleeping inside of a vacant dwelling because they are trying to not freeze or overheat to death. So I think that we can come up with better solutions. There will maybe be some arguments about folks urinating in a public area. The solution for urinating in a public area is a bathroom, not a ticket. So those are the kinds of conversations that I would like to start having in this legislature, and I know that Nevada is the state that can make some real changes in this area. So people who are homeless and who are convicted of these offenses would be offered these diversion programs, which do exist in many ways, and would be sentenced to the lowest fine or administrative assessment possible by statute. And these, someone is not able to just come and say, I'm homeless. We already have a metric by which we use to determine whether or not someone is housed. One of those metrics is that they must be 200% below the federal poverty rate, which is very, very impoverished. It is very clear to judges when someone is experiencing homelessness, and I can assure you no one is faking it. Why this is important, which I've touched on, is because it is illogical to fine money to someone who does not have it. It is a burden on the court. It is a financial burden on the state, and it's a burden on the people who are experiencing it. And we see these folks deteriorate at a rate that is so rapid that they are almost unrecognizable. By the time they've gotten out of jail, they are back to another fine or another fee. They've already received all of these issues. They are not able to get a job with all of these misdemeanors or warrants, etc. So if we are trying to solve this problem, we need to do it in a different way. And that is the goal of this bill. And I know that we are able to do this. And I know that we're able to do this session. And if we do not do this session, next session, we will see 10 more bills about homelessness. And I don't think that any of us want to do that. So with that, I'm going to end my presentation. However, I would like to invite Judge Walker and Judge Liu up to give theirs, and then afterwards, we will love to answer any questions anyone might have.
Please,
So good
please-
evening.
Please proceed. Make sure you state your name for the record, and we'll happy to
Egan
hear
Walker
your
for the-
comments.
Egan Walker for the record, EGANWALKER. I am a district judge in the Second Judicial District Court. I have the privilege of serving in Department 7. This bill is very timely for a number of reasons. First, I remind you of recent history. So you all may have some recollection that I testified not in this committee, but in this body in 2019 related to juvenile fines and fees. We had to ask the question as a state, how are we going to assess fines and fees in the way that has the most meaningful impact to change behavior? Because presumably, of course, the purpose for fining somebody when they get a ticket is to punish them and to dissuade them from engaging in future activity. The current system we have with ticketing and fining homeless people is what I call catch and ticket and not catch and solve. And what this legislation really moves toward is catch and solve, and here's why. So if you move to the presentation we have, I am joined by my colleague Cynthia Liu, and I'd like to talk to you about diversion and treatment courts we have in the Second Judicial District Court. These are only some of the courts that are part of the solution rather than fining people in ways that they can't pay and which we never collect. As an aside, this committee or the legislature should really consider always asking how many FTEs do we fund to collect the fines and fees that we impose, and how much money do we actually get? Because I suggest that you would find it's a net negative. We pay more to collect these fines and fees than we actually collect. through employment and wages. In the Second Judicial District Court, we're standing up a mental competency court. The mental competency court will deal with every individual in the county who's accused of a crime at any level, who is not competent or allegedly not competent to answer criminal allegations. That involves a very high percentage of the homeless population. There's almost a one-to-one correlation between homelessness and mental health or substance abuse issues, and we are in crisis in the Second Judicial District Court, really across the state, in the area of restoration to competency. There are people languishing for months in jail before they can get to a treatment facility for purposes of even assessing or returning them to competency. And it is resulting in the dismissal of cases and really fundamental constitutional violations. And so this cycle, the hamster wheel that you heard the ACLU refer to, is real. We catch people, we cite them, we fine them, they can't pay the fines, we issue a warrant, we catch them, we cite them, we fine them, they can't pay the fines, we issue a warrant, and they spend thousands of days in the Washoe County Jail at hundreds of thousands of dollars of cost to all of us. So you'll see the last sentence of the amendment says, or the last section, a person convicted, I think, is going to be removed, but a person accused of a misdemeanor under the previous section will be offered diversion. Here are the diversionary programs that we will offer. This is the solution. It is the change in behavior, the requirement that the people actually change how they conduct themselves. Assisted outpatient treatment court, which my colleague Judge Liu will explain to you in a minute. We have a mental health court and a veterans court. I'm the veterans court judge. You can probably tell by the haircut I'm a veteran. It's close to my heart. A very high proportion of the veterans who come into my court have a qualifying mental health diagnosis, and a very high proportion of them suffer homelessness. And these veterans, we owe them. Some of these kids have served 10, 11, 12, 13 tours in combat zones over the last 20 years, and so we owe them. I turn your attention to my colleague, Judge Liu, so she can talk about what the assisted outpatient treatment court is and why it makes so much more sense than a fine.
Hardworking members of the committee, I appreciate your time. For the record, oh, sorry. Sorry, thank you. Members, distinguished and hardworking members of the committee, thank you for your time. For the record, my name is Cynthia Liu, C-Y-N-T-H-I-A-L-U. I am a district court judge, along with my colleague Judge Walker. I want to just explain a little bit about the assisted outpatient treatment program. It is a civil court-ordered outpatient mental health treatment program where we target and help the severely mentally ill in our community. They are ordered to comply with their mental health treatment plan, and they receive intensive case management services, including a psychiatric caseworker that sees them 3 times a week. The program in Washoe County is through Northern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services. There's also a similar program in Clark County that already exists that is through the SNAMS mental health facility there. The current hearing master that hears that program is Claudia Romney down there. Judge Beta Yeager was previous in that program, and she's the supervising judge currently. So she and I have worked closely together with our 2 programs. But really, the AOT program is available in any county as long as you have a willing provider and a willing judge to hear those hearings. In the next slide, you'll see that 47 states have enacted an AOT program, and Nevada was the 45th. The legislation was passed here in 2013, and Clark County's program started in 2013, and they began state-funded with up to 75 participants at a time. In Washoe County, we began our program in December 2016, which I had the privilege to initiate with the SAMHSA grant, and because of the success of the program through the 4-year SAMHSA grant, we were able to become state-funded in 2020 with up to 50 participants at a time in Washoe County. In the next slide, you'll see that really we don't have enough inpatient hospital beds for our community. And so one of the reasons for the assisted outpatient treatment program is to ease that burden and to keep people out of the hospital if they don't need to be in the hospital, as long as they have resources and having their basic needs met. You'll see in the next slide that There is already in NRS 433A.3432 a criminal diversion process for the AOT program. So currently, gross misdemeanors and felony charges can be diverted to AOT. So simply what this bill would allow is to allow low-level offenses to also be diverted to the AOT program. And basically, it gives the same opportunity for all defendants, not just certain defendants, to access the AOT program. Judge Christy Craig was actually the proponent for this bill when it passed through legislation last time. In the next slide, you'll see what the AOT program offer. We have treatment plans, psychiatrists, psychiatric caseworkers. We have case management, medication management, individual group therapy, vocational training. So we offer vocational rehabilitation for those who can hold employment. For those who can't, because we normally are dealing with the severely mentally ill, we actually have them volunteer at animal shelters, at repairing bicycles, so they give back to the community in any way that they can, and it's been a wonderful give and take for our program. We also offer social gatherings that include extended family members. We know that many severely mentally ill individuals have strained their relationships with family members, and so we try to bridge that gap back with those family members and provide support, and we've successfully been actually able to integrate some severely mentally ill individuals back into their family homes by supporting their family members as well. In the next slide, you'll just see that in the first 2 years of our program, we served 75 individuals. Anyone can refer to this program. We get family members referring. We get mental health hospitals referring for people who are inpatient. We have mental health professionals. We have attorneys referring, mainly public defenders, referring their clients to our program. As you can see in the next slide, we calculated some statistics, which we had to do for our SAMHSA grant. And in data collected in 2019, we compared 75 consumers of our program regarding their incarceration days, as well as their hospital days the year before the program and then their year during the program. And as you can see, the incarceration days reduced by 73%. So these are individuals that would be in that revolving door of the jail, and we were able to reduce that in 1 year by 73% of the consumers in our program. We were also able to reduce their hospitalizations, meaning entering into the hospital and the repeated times they've been in the hospital, by 61%. So in turn, that reduces the time that they go to the ER, where they have to be cleared to then go to a mental health facility. So we have found that in 1 year of the program, we probably had a cost savings of over $1 million through hospital days and reduced jail days. So with that, I'll turn back to my colleague, Judge Walker. Thank you.
We're deeply proud. Specialty court programs we have, those 9 specialty court programs cover the field, but particularly relevant to our conversation today is notice the statistics. In addition to the jail days saved by not simply finding somebody, releasing them back to the community untreated to be recaptured again and presumably fined again, for every dollar spent on a specialty court intervention, you save 3 times that amount, really 3 1/3 times that amount across savings in the system. And so the Second Judicial District Court, Mental Health Court, for example, is designed to treat those who have a mental illness or intellectual disability. 2/3 of them have a co-occurring substance abuse disorder, which is not surprising, and it has a holistic approach. The idea is to get people off the street, out of patterns of behavior that get them captured by the misdemeanor citation process or other criminal processes, and to not catch and cite, but to catch and solve. Right? Rather than the idea that we'd impose a fine that is almost never collected and is only ever resolved by the person being rearrested and then having to serve time in jail for not paying the fine, we want to change the behavior. I would suggest to all of you, I have an adult criminal docket that includes death penalty cases in the second. So I hear all range of crimes. I don't mean to minimize the effect of any particular crime on a human being. For anybody who's victimized by a crime, the crime rate is 100%. But I would suggest to all of you that we don't have a crime problem in the United States. We have a mental health problem. We have a mental health crisis in the United States, says the ABA, says the American Psychiatric Association, the American Pediatric Association, and every special congressional commission that's looked at it. And the way to treat mental health is not by fines. It is by interventions like the mental health court, specialty court or the Veterans Court. So I wanted to take just a moment again to retouch the Veterans Court. So you saw on the mental health court slide, 92% of graduates from mental health court don't recidivate in the next 3 years. In the Veterans Court, 88% of the veterans who are successfully matriculate out of the Veterans Court don't recidivate. So not only are we not fining and capturing, arresting and fining people, but we're not rearresting people because we didn't find them and create a circumstance that doesn't modify their behavior. And that's why I would suggest to you in closing, the idea that we would capture and fine people doesn't modify human behavior. It doesn't solve the social ills that cause the need for police to intervene with people who are homeless on the street. What solves the problem is catch and solve. And that's really why removing fines and fees from this vulnerable cross-section of the community gets people out of the criminal justice hamster wheel and loop. We welcome your questions.
And thank you for the presentation. Appreciate you all joining us on a Friday. Members, questions? Senator Daley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first, just a comment. So I like this approach much better than the bill as it was written. So I'm just looking at the amendment, and without your explanation, I wouldn't have captured what you're trying to capture. So I'm assuming there's going to be some refinement to this, because the one thing it says that they'll be offered. Isn't it more of a, lack of a better word, I mean, you're telling them to go do this. So is it still an option, or if they don't take the option, where do they go? And obviously we want to get them out of the cycle that's not working. Fully supportive of that, and I know it saves money, but
So
is it an offer?
Egan Walker for the record, and I'm sorry, sir, if I cut your question off in any way. So I'm a judge, I'm good at making decisions, and I'm good at building incentives for human beings. The thing about this bill is, remember, anybody who's convicted of a misdemeanor is still subject to up to 6 months in the county jail. And so I can say to a human being involved in this, look, you were caught for loitering in a public place or sleeping on a park bench. Can we not solve that human issue in your life by this referral to one of these specialty courts? If you don't want to do it, fine. But guess what my option is? It's 20 days in the county jail, and we've not solved the problem. And to the ACLU's point, people don't volunteer for homelessness. They don't choose to be homeless on the street, to live in a very crime-infected, drug-infected, very unhealthy setting for themselves. They live there because they have no other choices, and they're merely trying to survive. And so many of them have a co-occurring substance abuse mental health disorder that unless we address the mental health disorder, we're not going to break the cycle. We're not going to solve the problem. I am confident that the judges I know across the state who have jurisdiction over these people will ensure that the offer of diversion is a meaningful path out, particularly when they see their friends graduate out. So the great thing about the AOT court is the participants in the court talk to each other, and they talk to their friends in the community who aren't succeeding. And in my experience as a specialty court judge, that's one of the big pulls to the specialty courts. I hope that answers your question.
It did, thank you. Thank you for the explanation. And I was gonna joke with you and say you're good at making decisions and banging the gavel, but you're no comparison to our chair banging the gavel.
He runs a tight ship.
Senator Krasner, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. It's really excellent presentation. I've received some emails that have concerns that say, are people going to be able to expose themselves in public, urinate in public, and then just say, oh, well, I'm homeless and get away with it? I mean, is that part of this?
Do you want me to answer? Do you want to answer? So Egan Walker for the record. Understandably, if you are at a public park with your children and a person who happens to be homeless exposes him or herself, whether it's for using the bathroom or not, whether there's for a so-called legitimate purpose or not, that is upsetting. I would suggest to the person who has a concern that if I fine that human being $500, it doesn't change their behavior one bit. Not only that, but they don't pay the fine usually because they have no ability to pay it. If instead I suggest to them, you can avoid the fine and any jail time I might impose by going seeing Judge Liu and that friendly team in AOT court, and you can agree with them to get intervention, counseling, medication usually, to refrain from substance abuse or get substance abuse intervention, then they don't expose themselves again. And what I would say to the person who's concerned that they're getting a slap on the wrist is, would you rather solve the problem or have me impose a fine that they're not going to pay and have them do it again?
I think that might be a sticking point. I just, you think about a mother with her children at the park and then someone exposing themselves. I don't know.
If I may, Mr. Chair, again, Egan Walker for the record. Again, if what you want, if the purpose is a healthier, safer community, it is not a healthier, safer community to impose a fine that's not collected. It doesn't change the behavior. The human being who is engaging in the criminal conduct hasn't modified their behavior in any way. If the human being who is cited is not released, I'm not suggesting just let him go. I'm not suggesting just return him to the community. I'm not even suggesting take him out of jail immediately if they haven't bailed out of jail. What I'm suggesting is put them in a treatment program where they get the interventions they need so that they change their behavior over time. And that's the magic of specialty courts. I'll share with you, Senator Krasner, as a prosecutor in Washoe County, I prosecuted homicides, child abuse, child sexual assault cases. My philosophy was very much send them all to prison and let God sort them out. Thank you very much. Until I became a judge and I realized we have to really ask ourselves, what makes the community safer? And what makes the community safer is intervening with human beings so they don't repeat the conduct. And a fine doesn't do that.
Just one more, Chair, please. So the person that did expose themselves in public, whether it was for urinating in public or not, would be taken to jail and then entered into the diversion program. Is that correct?
I'm so sorry, Egan Walker for the record. If arrest is appropriate, yes. In other words, nothing changes about the criminal dynamic of it. If an officer makes a probable cause determination that a crime has been committed, he can arrest or cite the person using his or her discretion. And frequently it is a citation, just so you know. It's not always an arrest. But if the officer determines the person needs to be arrested, they process through the criminal justice system. They enter a plea if they're found guilty or plead guilty, then a judge determines what's the result. The only difference in this whole process is the judge isn't saying, okay, I'm going to make us all feel better by saying I fined you $500, even though we know we're not going to collect it. Or I'm going to require that you undertake a system of treatment and intervention so that you change your behavior.
And I understand that a fine doesn't help here because a person's homeless, so they don't have money, so they can't pay the fine. I understand that. But unless you put somebody who commits a crime and say the crime is exposing themselves in public, and the mother with the children example in the park, how can you guarantee that they're going to come back? I mean, they probably don't have a daily planner. They probably don't have an email where you can reach them, and so they can be sure to come back in a timely fashion every Monday at 8.
Thank you, Chair Flores to Senator Krasner. In our program, we offer them housing.
If I could have you please identify.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Cynthia Liu for the record. In our program, we have them in housing, and we have a psychiatric caseworker, and we basically have groups every day. So Monday through Friday, they are seen in our program, and we check on them and make sure they're doing fine. Most of them go into group homes because a lot of them can't reside on their own, and then we make sure they have their medications, they have all their basic needs met. You would be amazed at the turnaround people have just when they have their basic needs met, including shelter. And they don't do that behavior because they don't need to, because they're not desperate. And they're able to have a bathroom, they're able to have food, they're able to have their medications, and they come to our groups and they participate. And we really show them that there's, resources for them, and they don't have to go back to that life, which none of them want to go back to. So I think that may help answer your question. Thank you.
It does. Thank you.
Senator Goycochea, please.
Yes, thank you, and I hope I'm not getting too far off. As I look at this exemption, though, clearly this is an exemption for a certain level of the homeless people. But again, there is a segment out there that probably, it is maybe a choice. And, we look at, destruction of property or trespass, unlawful entry. There is a segment out there that might be more of a criminal element. So I wouldn't want your job, but it sounds to me like what this bill will do, it will allow for an exemption, but it doesn't mean that that's an automatic pass just because I come to your court and I broke somebody's window and I said, well, I'm homeless.
Egan Walker for the record. So Senator Goycochea, I was born at night, but not last night. I see hundreds of people a month and a year. And I assure you that the judges I work with and the judges in the criminal justice system here in Nevada recognize dangerous criminal conduct. Interestingly, the bill does nothing to change restitution. So for example, if you damage property and you're homeless, you're still obligated to provide restitution if that's an appropriate order of the court. And that's a part of the critical component of the AOT program in terms of community service. But just because you qualify as being homeless for a waiver of fines and fees doesn't mean you're not still subject to 6 months in the county jail and all the other jurisdiction that a court can impose. Moreover, a judge could say, well, yes, you're homeless, but under the circumstances of this case, I believe a part of the action plan is for you to pay back to the community, again, by restitution, community service, or otherwise.
All right, I thank you, and I was just trying to speed the process up, because if you really look at it, and a lot of people are saying, okay, this is a blanket exemption, all you got, if you're homeless, you're going to get a free pass. And the judge still has the ability to say, no, you will go to jail.
And again, Egan Walker for the record, that's only as to the fine. The funny thing about the criminal justice system is you always have to ask, why are you doing what you're doing, right? And everybody wants the judges to be a hammer and everybody to look like a nail. Well, the problem with that is we're talking about human behavior, and the homeless folks that I have the privilege of dealing with don't have money to pay fines, and they don't pay the fines. And so for them, it's a meaningless exercise to be fined any amount of money because they're never going to pay it. It's not going to happen. What does make a difference in their lives is to intervene with their substance abuse issues and their mental health issues. And they get off the streets, and they get off the streets fast. The vets that I work with, Senator, I wish you all could come and see some of the graduations. They make 180-degree turns. I tell those men and women, ruck up, move forward in life, because the world's a good place. And they completely stop their criminality.
I appreciate that, but it is a complex problem, and I agree with you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you again for the presentation and joining us. If I could invite you to sit back, and I will now invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 155 to please come forward, Las Vegas or Carson City. Please, come forward. Yes, please. Good afternoon, welcome, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Erica Roth, ERICAROTH, on behalf of the Washoe County Public Defender's Office. I first want to thank the Senator for bringing this important legislation forward. It really speaks to me and my work, and I want to read a quote to you that I have been reminded through in this process from Brian Stevenson, who's a civil rights attorney. And he says, "Proximity has taught me some basic and humbling truths, including this vital lesson. Each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. My work with the poor and the incarcerated has persuaded me that the opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. And the true measure of our commitment to justice, the character of our society, our commitment to the rule of law, fairness, and equality cannot be measured by how we treat the rich, the powerful, the privileged. The true measure of our character is how we treat the poor, the disfavored, the accused, the incarcerated, and the condemned." AB 155 takes us one step closer to justice for those experiencing homelessness. As Judge Walker very eloquently pointed out, it does not make sense to fine someone for crimes related to homelessness. It's not justice nor logic that imposing a $500 fine for trespassing when an unhoused person seeks shelter in an empty building or camps in public. I want to touch briefly in my short time back to you, Senator Krasner, and on your concerns, and you as well, Senator Goycochea. This is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. The criminal justice system remains the same. The penalties, other than the fines and fees, remain the same. Every day I have had clients come before me who have picked up charges for indecent exposure or other crimes, such as exposing themselves in a park. In that instance, they likely would have been taken into custody and spent time in jail. They would then be taken before a judge. All this does is say that they are not required to pay the fine or fee that is currently exists, because it does not make sense in this case. The specialty courts that we have in Washoe County are exemplary. I'm very proud of the work that the Second Judicial District Court has done, and it really is a service. This bill simply makes sense, and I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, good evening, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Chastity Martinez, ChasityMartinez. I'm a community organizer with Faith in Action Nevada and also a resident of Reno, Nevada. I'm here to show my support for SB 155. And as Faith in Action Nevada, we work both with faith communities and those directly impacted by issues like homelessness. And our organization believes that those closest to the pain or to the problem should really be at the heart of finding the solution. So I believe that those who know the firsthand experience of this issue should really be here to testify and be part of this conversation. And there are a few folks here in this room that are going to share their experience and their thoughts on why criminalization and adding fines and fees to folks is not the answer, but really the need for more humanizing solutions. So I urge your support on this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Hi, I'm Dan Fraley, DAE. I am homeless. And what everybody has stated is when you're out there and you don't have $1 or window to throw it out of or get or anything, we're not going to pay it. I mean, there's no way we're going to be able to pay it. And putting us in jail is not going to do nothing besides irritate us. I mean, that's what it is. It's just, okay, they're going to put us in jail for 5 months, 6 months, whatever it may be. What's it going to do? That's all it's going to do. We're still going to have to go back out to the streets and start this process all over again. And my experience is actually the people that aren't criminals have to become criminals to make it. I don't want to be out there. I never want to be out there. I've been on top of the world in this state, in the city, and on the bottom. I don't like either one of them. I like the middle. But that's besides the point. It's just, once you get to that point, you don't care, you don't care. And I know you guys have all probably heard of the end of the world. It's the end of the world because those people really do not care. They don't care. And, that's the only thing I say. I mean, I support the bill. I don't believe we're finding people and having people stay taken is going to make a big difference. It's just going to make criminals. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
I am going to say that as a former motel owners, I used to own 3 motels, Everybody's Inn, Desert Sunset, and Hoham. I can assure you that the homelessness is created by City of Reno. When the city code enforcement, the health department, the OSHA, all these agencies come, and that's the first thing they do, they declare that we're the slumlord and we have no right to be in the business. So when then they become a judge and jury and the executioner. And I grew up in Washoe County. So the end result is we end up losing all of our motels. And once the motels are all down, when we start the business, there was 24,000 rooms in Reno. But now, because of these draconian laws or Jim Crow's laws, whatever you like to call it, now you don't have any motels rooms to begin with for these poor people. So when you make these people homeless, now these people are on the street, and now you're punishing them because they have no place to go because our motels were the heaven for these poor people. We always represent the lifestyle of the poor and unknown in this town. We have no desire to represent the lifestyle of the rich and famous over here. And that's one of the reason, that's one of the reason there is a motels, there is a homelessness going up, because the big developers are coming from California here, and then they punish small motel owners like us. And basically, these are all laws implemented on us like a Jim Crow's law. That's what they are. So the motels are older motel. Of course, we know it's an older motel, and these motels are covered by what they call it grandfather laws. And I went through UNR. I've taken business law courses. I know the law very well. But every time these people come, they have only one desire: to hurt us financially, which means they shut down our motel. 2 of my motel catch on fire. Everybody's in Desert Sunset, and they have no suspect. And then after that, they force me to sell the property to their favorite developers. And these developers are hiding faces behind LLC, and I know who these people are. When they got
sir,
the motel, they open motel just like that.
We have hit the 2-minute mark. If you could just close it out with your last remarks, please.
I'm sorry, what were you say, sir?
No, I said we just hit the 2-minute mark. If you could wrap it up.
So
please.
timing is the factor, is it? Okay, no, I understand.
Yes, please. It's just we're
So
doing
did
2
I
minutes.
use my 2 minutes already,
We
sir?
have, but if you have one closing remark.
Well,
please.
only closing remarks is very simple, is that let us survive too, because the 87% of the growth in Washoe County last year went to the 1% of the population here. So how do you expect us to black, brown people like us to survive too? But that's all I'm saying to you.
Thank you.
I think you heard me now.
Please,
If you have any other question, any one of you, please ask me.
I appreciate it. If there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, I can add,
you
I
feel
can
free
write the
to-
book on the subject, but don't worry, me.
You can write the book, submit it to our
Submit it
committee
to us.
staff, and they will upload it.
All right, I'm
Thank
glad
you for
do.
joining us, sir.
Any question from you? Okay.
No questions. Thank you,
thank
sir.
you.
Please.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. My name is Prince C. Saruhan. That's Prince like the artist, and Saruhan. I am a resident of Reno, Senate District 16. I'm here today with Faith in Action Nevada to support Senate Bill 155. As a fisherman and as a volunteer with Faith in Action Nevada and with St. Vincent de Paul Society and Catholic Charities, I have personal experiences with our local houseless population. It might surprise you how their varied needs and personal failures are not unlike yours and I's. But when someone loses their ability to house themselves, they now suddenly lose their human rights too. That's what cities like Reno and counties pretty soon like Washoe County, like mine, functionally say when we criminalize homelessness. We, my cohort, fight community apathy out there every day, and now we have to fight hostility too. You've likely heard of a mutual group, and a homeless individual being and seemingly intentionally run over while interacting on the sidewalk. Passing SB 155 will send the right message that our homeless population are our neighbors, and that we as a state want a more just and loving community. We should be housing the houseless instead of making it easier for them to go to jail. Housing is a human right. Thank you, and in Tagalog, maraming salamat po.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Good evening, good afternoon, members of the community and chair. My name is Aishika Paisley, Isheika. I am a resident of the District 13 of Reno. I am here today with Faith in Action of Nevada. I'm here today to show my support for the Senator Bill 155 that would help the homeless. I would like if the community could give guarantee to any homeless person in liberty to use and move freely in the public place, including without limitation, public sidewalk, government building, public park, and public transportation vehicles. The extent of Nevada resident support, I think the bill can help people finding more affordable housing and resource with the help of the community, and direct the people in the right program and not giving them jail time. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Alexander Barraza, Baraza. I'm a battle-born, raised Reno native. I'm out of District 13, Mr. Daly. I'm here representing Faith in Nevada, and I'm here to show support on SB 155. If this bill was passed, there'd be more room for people and organizations to help the real underlying issues with the homelessness. It would give people more clarity and protection instead of being criminalized. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Peters, Jennifer Peters. I am a resident of Washoe County. I'm also here to support Faith in Action Nevada to show support on Senate Bill 155. This bill is important to me because I think it is wrong to discriminate against homelessness or people experience homelessness. If this bill were to pass, it would help those that I care about, giving them clarity, a peace of mind, knowing that their quality is protected. I'm asking you to please support SB 155, and thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Hello, my name is Joshua Alex Miller, Joshua Alex Miller, and I'm here today with Faith in Action Nevada to show my support for Senate Bill 155. This bill is important to me because it prevents the unethical punishment of persons for simply being homeless. And if this bill were to pass, it would help me and my friends and acquaintances by not only because it supports individual freedom for those choosing homelessness, but releases some of the strongholds facilitating their homelessness. And that's it.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
You're welcome.
Hello and thank you, legislators. I'm Michael Tang, Michaeltang, a constituent under Senate District 13. I'm a volunteer with Faith in Action and a volunteer with Vincent DePaul Charities. I've been working with them for months now, and I've been providing food to the homeless, our community members out on the streets. And if only they were here to notice that this bill was happening here in Carson City, it would be an opportunity to have them here, but unfortunately, transportation is a problem here. So, I believe that SB 155 will give them the choice to whether if they would rather live the American dream as quoted and seek out their freedoms that were given to them since they're natural born citizens. Since I've been on the street, working with them on the streets, even after bulldozers carrying out their homes away from 4th Street off the rail tracks, even shutting down of fishermen's in Paradise Parks due to risk-taking cooking and warming up, they will come back. You can't beat down survival instincts with a law or a stick. And just to see how problematic they can have to stress out through the problems, it's frustrating for them, and I can't help but feel more empathy for them, especially the passing of 98 community members down in Reno last year. I have several of them listed on this name paper when I was listing their names out in the homeless vigil. It was pretty frustrating to see that society sees them that way. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your service.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
Hi. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Hugh Trong, Huetrung, and I am a resident of Nevada District 13. I am a community advocate for Faith in Action in Nevada, and I see I'm right in front of the forehand, and I see most of them aren't, they're not violent. Like Judge Walker, he's right. It's a mental issue. If we can combat that or find a safe solution, because we know the CARES campus is not working, you know. I'm blank and stuff, but, you know, I'm in support of SB Bill 155 due to the fact that, because it's bad enough that they're homeless, and to be discriminated on is unjust. If we could help and show that we care about, if this bill would pass, it would show that we have empathy and at least a heart. 'Cause, I mean, I pass out food every Tuesday morning for them, and to see all of their homes being just bulldozed. I mean, even Mayor Hillary, okay, our mayor, she's advertising the CARES campus like it's a resort. Why is that? You know? Thank you, board members, and please support SB 155, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
My name is John Solomon, JOHN SOLOMON, and I'm a member of Faith in Action, speaking in support of SB 155. I help feed the unhoused citizens in Reno, and it is obvious that every one of them has been severely traumatized just by the nature of attempting to live while unhoused. We need to understand that our unhoused citizens are not the problem, but a symptom of the problem, and we need to start to treat them as the citizens that they are. Passing this bill would be the beginning. Our unhoused citizens are being traumatized by the law enforcement agencies that are supposed to protect them. One phoned-in complaint can cause an entire group of unhoused citizens to be displaced and all their possessions stolen by the law enforcement. In Reno, it happens so often they hire subcontractors to do the dirty work. Law enforcement don't seem to understand that the unhoused should not have their life-sustaining actions be illegal. The only solution to the unhoused crisis is homes. Law enforcement is not viable. All it does is move the problem around and makes life harder for the people whose life is harder than anything you can imagine. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
My name is Willie Gomez, WILLIEGOMEZ. I support this bill, and I just want to say that not everybody chooses to be homeless. Like myself, I just become homeless. I become homeless because someone's wrongdoing. So what's it gonna become of me? Do I have to go to jail and all that in order to get myself out of this? I'm trying so hard to do. When you have no money, no income, nothing, how does one do it? That's how it becomes a problem. I notice that. So I just think there's gotta be better ways for them to overlook this. Maybe some kind of program that could separate, like just say, if you separate those that, like myself, that don't want to be homeless. I want to be out of this. I want to get out of this. I don't want to fall in that crack. But I just don't see no resources helping me out. And so if they're going to stop me and pull me over because I'm sleeping, because I have nowhere to sleep, or rest my neck, or I get hungry, I get cold, what do? Am I going to go steal? No, I don't want to steal. I don't want to have to. I got to still believe that there's some way out of this. But who can help someone that doesn't have nothing? Like I say, not everybody wants to be home. Not everybody wants to live that life. They have to know that, and not just look at everyone the same, that you're just another one. We're not. I want to work. I want to live. I want to live a good life like the judge says. But it is hard when somebody has nothing. I don't have nothing. I just have what I have on my back. No cash, no nothing. I've lost everything because of somebody doing me wrong. So doesn't mean, so you see, I'm not here because I want to be here. I was put here. So that's what I'm saying. All these people, I've talked to a lot of them. Everybody has a story. And it's not because they want to be there. I met a gentleman that lost his whole family in one wreck. That devastated him, put him there. But everybody just thinks you're just another. They're not. We're people. I see that now myself. Like say, I've never been homeless until now. So I understand what they're going through. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you for joining us, sir. Is there anybody else wishing to testify in support in Carson City or Las Vegas? BPS will go to the phone lines. Support for Senate Bill 155.
If you would like to support SB 155, please press star 9 now. Take your place in the queue.
Hello, my name is Adrian Lowry. I'm an organizer with Northern Nevada DSA. I support this bill. We're talking about people who have fallen on bad times. I don't know how we can talk about punishing these people for doing the things they need to survive. You've heard the statistics of unhoused people who died this last year, but each of these people were real people. It could be your mother, your father, your daughter. How can we take someone who's living in distress and then make them into a criminal because they have nowhere to sleep, they have nowhere to eat or use the bathroom? What is the alternative? A criminal penalty is not going to help them get out of this situation, not going to help them have safer environments to live in. So anything to, divert them from going into the criminal system, which will just add more trauma, will just make it harder for them to survive or to get into a better status, housing status, is good. And so I support this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. BPS, next caller in support of Senate Bill 155.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Cindy Martinez. I am a Marine Corps veteran and retired Nevada State Peace Officer. I am in AD 30 and SD 13. I was originally opposed to SB 155 as it was written, but after listening to the presentation and having a better understanding of the conceptual amendment, I do support the bill. When I was active duty law enforcement, the revolving door of cite, release, fail to appear, fail to comply, rearrest ad nauseum never made sense to me. But existing statutes obligated law enforcement to effect arrest for violation of criminal statutes, FTA, FTC, and court orders. Even more perplexing were judgments of conviction that also included court orders filing a lien against the convicted to collect those fines and fees that were not collectible. That never made sense to me. I conducted background investigations to determine suitability for persons to be employed in the gaming industry. And I spoke to and met with countless disadvantaged citizens who were able to break the cycle of crime and homelessness and began to become productive citizens as a result of participating in diversion courts. I'm well acquainted with the recovery community and members who have also benefited from various diversion courts. My understanding of the objectives and goals of CARES Campus and wraparound services being coordinated by Washoe County dovetails with the stated goals of this bill. And I thank Judge Walker for his service and remember him as a DA from my own early criminal cases in Washoe. Please vote yes on SB 155. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 155.
Chair Flores and members of the committee, my name is Matthew Wilkie, MATTHEWWILKIE. For the record, I want to express my strong support to Senate Bill 155. I want to thank Senator Orenshaw for bringing this bill forward and Lily for her tireless support for the unsheltered population. Houselessness is a complex issue that impacts every community across the country. These individuals are often subjected to discrimination and harassment simply for existing in public spaces, often criminalized for engaging in life-sustaining activities such as resting, sheltering from the elements, and eating. This legislation is crucial in protecting the basic rights of houseless individuals. It recognizes that everyone, regardless of their housing status deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. This bill ensures that houseless individuals can engage in these life-sustaining activities. Laws criminalizing the houseless are not only violate basic human rights, but they are also ineffective in addressing the root causes of houselessness. I urge you to support this bill as it will help ensure that all Nevadans are treated with the respect and dignity that they deserve. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. BPS, next caller in support of Senate Bill 155.
My name is Dwight George, and I am here to support SB 155. As a Reno resident, I have seen a lot of the people that have spoken for this, and I know that they are not only very passionate about taking care of these people, but actually know the people that this bill would affect. I believe that this is a common sense item. I don't think it makes really any kind of sense to anyone to punish someone when it does nothing good to help them. I believe that within the justice system, true justice is making things better, and to hurt someone that is already hurting and already does not have enough in their life, that would cause no good at all. I appreciate this bill coming through because I know as a Reno resident and as a Nevada resident in general, a lot of us are dealing with rent that is out of control, way too high. And so many of us are on the verge of being included in this in the unhoused community just because of things that are out of our control. There are so many things out of these people's hands that I feel like a lot of people don't realize. I feel like there is too much of a stigma that these people in a way deserve what is going on when this is your community. These are your community members, and they should be treated as such. A lot of outside factors are play here, but one thing that will not help is piling that on. And I appreciate the people that are supporting this, and I thank the people that bring it forward. Thank you.
And thank you for calling in. We'll go to the next caller in support of Senate Bill 155.
Tanya Brown, TONJA, Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. We support this bill. We thank everyone for bringing this bill forward. And we echo the comments made by the previous individuals who have called in and spoken on behalf of this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 155.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIEGRANT, Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. I concur with the other testimony in support of the bill. Homelessness should not be a crime. Thank you.
And thank you for calling in. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 155.
Hello, my name is Erica Minaberry, ERIKAMINABERRY, for the record, and I would just like to echo the sentiments of everyone that came before me and stand in support of this bill. Thank you very much. Bye.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 155.
Hello, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Megan O'Farrell, MEAGANO apostrophe F as in Frank, ARRELL. I work for Reno Food Systems in Reno, Washoe County area, and I would just like to mirror the sentiments of the rest of the folks who are standing in support of SB 155 today. I would also like to recognize, as a person who works in the food equity world and who is actively out on the ground doing direct aid both with unhoused folks and other people who are experiencing food security, that I recognize that housing insecurity is a human right and food justice is in line with housing justice. The work that we are doing on the ground to support people who are experiencing food insecurity is in line with people needing housing. We recognize as a healthy society, people need stable housing. We recognize that they need access to nutritious, quality food. We recognize they need access to good quality health care, including mental health care. That is a right that we all deserve as a community. And those of us who are out trying to come up with the solutions to support people out of these spaces of poverty are being hindered by laws that SB 155 is trying to stop. So I, again, stand in support of the work of the ACLU, of Lilith Barron, of the judges today who have showed immense appreciation for the tremendous problem that we are experiencing as a community. And I urge you to pass this bill. Being poor is not a crime. Having housing instability is not a crime. This is a moral bankruptcy in our community, and this is the bare minimum that we can do to support equity for all. I encourage you to pass this bill. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 155.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Okay, now we'll go to those wishing to testify in opposition in Carson City or Las Vegas. BPS, do we have anybody over the phone wishing to testify in opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 155, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, Katrina Ivanov, Ivanoff. I'm calling in opposition of the bill, not because I don't feel for the homeless. It's actually the opposite. I really feel for them, but I don't think this is going to help. This makes illegal for them to urinate and defecate in public. And when the representative asked, what if they do it in front of a mother with children? Oh, that was not allowed because there was a mother with children. But what if there is no mother with children? So we can wake up and our park can be full of feces, the way it's in San Francisco? No, I don't think that's a good thing. That doesn't protect the citizens. And furthermore, we elect our representatives to represent us, and we expect the people on local level to create laws to represent us more closely than the one on the state level and the one on the federal level. So with this law, you tie the hands of the people that are chose to represent a specific community. If people are unhappy with how they're represented, in a few years, vote them out or recall them. But don't tie their hands. How would you like if the federal government passes a law that says you cannot enact a bill that would make abortion legal up to 9 months? Because that's what you're trying to do right now. And you have that right at the moment because the federal government hasn't come up with a bill to tie up your hands. Now it makes sense why the senator that brought this bill is bringing Bill 156, because he's trying to protect the commissioners that
And
to
ma'am,
work from home because people are not going to be happy.
ma'am, I apologize that I'm
Yes?
cutting you off, but we've hit the 2-minute mark. If there is additional remarks that you would
Okay.
like to be uploaded to the committee, please submit them in writing. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you. BPS, do we
I
have anybody
also
else
say
wishing
for
to
the-
join us in opposition to Senate Bill 155?
Thank you to the chair and members of the committee. My name is Alita Benson, Executive Director of the Nevada Republican Party, testifying in opposition to Senate Bill 155 on behalf of the Nevada Republican Party. SB 155 again attempts to usurp authority from our local governments by allowing homeless people to freely camp in public spaces with only a slap on the wrist as a potential consequence. This is nothing more than the further Californication of Nevada. What do these practices do in real life? Let's look at the homeless capital of San Francisco to see what Nevada has to look forward to if SB 155 is passed. Tech leader Bob Lee was stabbed to death there this week, bleeding out on the sidewalk as he asked for help. Former fire commissioner Don Carminani was brutally beaten by homeless addicts in front of his own home. You can also look at the beaches in formerly beautiful Santa Monica to see public spaces littered with human feces and drug paraphernalia. We already see homeless drug addicts and crime spiking on our gem of the Las Vegas Strip. We can see the track record of cities who decriminalized homelessness. Is this something we want here? A law without enforcement is no law at all. We have laws for a reason. Just because a person is homeless doesn't mean that they should get special treatment or exemption from our laws. No homeowner or renter, except perhaps the bill sponsor, wants homeless people in their neighborhood. They don't want them in our parks. They want homeless people, many of whom are suffering from addictions and mental illness, to get the help they need, which is already heavily funded. This bill doesn't do that. It gives homeless drug addicts who are currently making our parks, our streets, and our public transportation unsafe free range with zero penalties to come into neighborhoods and handcuff the police from removing them. Gated, wealthy neighborhoods have the resources to stop this. This is just one more silent tax on the poor pushed by the people who want to keep them that way. What better way to hurt generational wealth building than by eroding the value of the biggest asset that most people buy, their home, by allowing their neighborhoods to be turned into homeless encampments? The homeless should be given a list of the home addresses for every legislator that votes for this bill, which would effectively decriminalize homelessness, as those in support stated. After all, if you support this right of the homeless to camp freely, charity begins at home in your neighborhood. You can say the amendment doesn't do this.
And ma'am,
but when there's no
I apologize, I
enforcement
have
of
to
the law,
cut you off,
you
but
need
we
look
have hit
no
the
further
2-minute
than
mark.
California. Yep.
I apologize, we have to cut you off, but we have hit the 2-minute mark. However, please, you can always submit your testimony in writing via email to our committee staff, and we'll make sure it gets uploaded. Thank you for joining us. BPS, next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 155.
For the record, Bruce Parks, B-R-U-C-E-P-A-R-K-S. I'm chairman of the Washoe County Republican Party. I strongly oppose this bill. I have spent thousands of hours in homeless camps all over the country. I would like to say that we are not criminalizing homelessness. We are criminalizing behavior, as it should be. This bill enables those people that are suffering the consequences of their poor life choices. That's what they're victims of, and nothing else. Having spent the time in those camps, I can assure you that the majority of those people are vagrants by choice. They do not want to have rules or responsibility even for themselves. As a taxpayer, we have reasonable expectation to be able to use our public spaces and not feel unsafe in doing so. The majority of the parks in Washoe County cannot be used by the average citizen because of the homeless situation in Washoe County. We are all to expect equal protection under the law. Nobody is above the law, and I am absolutely adamantly opposed to creating a protected class of people for any reason. The laws apply to us all equally and should be enforced as such. Speaking with many people that have recovered from living on the streets, the majority of them simply got tired of not having access to their drugs while they were in jail. And that's what cleaned them up and got them back to being productive members of our community, which everyone on those streets could be, only if we have the moral fortitude to end this inhumane situation. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 155.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Partee, P as in Paul, A-R-T as in Tom, E-E. I would ask you to please vote no on SB 155, which prohibits county and city governments from enacting and enforcing any ordinance that protects the public's health and safety, which may be viewed as discriminating against the homeless. This bill more describes discrimination against businesses, home, and property owners as written and violates the principle of local control. It embraces the failed ideas that San Francisco uses, and we don't want Nevada to become like San Francisco or Los Angeles. Do what Houston did. They helped the homeless to get treatment and banned public camping, which successfully decreased the homeless population. Drug addiction is the leading cause of homelessness, so let's get them the help that they need in this area. And by that, I don't mean drug-safe areas where they can actually provide the tools to use the drugs while being observed by healthcare workers. Do not take away the important right of self-government in our counties and cities. Clark and Washoe counties are different from rural areas. We don't have the huge, significant homeless problem as they do, although our mayor would love to invite more homeless people here. So this is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Now, as to the amendment, that's a great start. My frustration is that this amendment was evidently already in progress while the initial bill was scheduled to be heard without it. No bill should be heard until it's absolutely ready, which this was not, as Senator Daley indicated, since he feels as I do, that I like this approach much better than the bill. At least with this, you'll figure the correct redress as to the situation on a case-by-case basis to possibly correct the behaviors that become a regular cycle with many. You can't expect them to pay fines. So that's a great addition to the amendment, as are the diversion and specialty court programs and other assistance as needed. Please ensure you have all of this worked out before approving this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 155.
CYRUS HOJJATY. I was in Beverly Hills last weekend. It was such a exciting experience, able to walk down those streets without dealing with homeless encampments and all these other issues that all the nearby areas have. Imagine if they weren't able to put an ordinance that would prevent that, and how the experience of visiting that city would have been. I will ditto the comments made by others. Yield my time.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 155.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. This is Jennifer Noble on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. I'm trying my best to keep up with the amendments, and if the concern I'm about to raise is outdated or based on any misunderstanding of the updated language, I do apologize, but one of our primary concerns lies in any provision that would mandate diversion for 3 crimes in Chapter 205 of the Nevada Revised Statutes that are gross misdemeanor crimes for the first offense and felonies for subsequent offenses. So housebreaking, breaking into an unoccupied structure, unlawful occupancy, which is staying in an unoccupied dwelling or building without the owner's permission, and unlawful reentry, which involves actually returning to a property after the owner has used a legal process to reassert their right to it. As a Washoe County prosecutor, I know very well that Judge Liu and Judge Walker do wonderful, effective, and important work in their specialty courts. But we are concerned that if diversion for those crimes I just mentioned is mandatory rather than permissive, we might be inadvertently encouraging folks to unlawfully enter buildings and stay there without the owner's permission and return even after the owners engage with the justice system to address people going into their building and staying without permission. People staying in buildings without the owner's knowledge or permission presents legitimate safety concerns, both for property owners and for persons experiencing homelessness. In Washoe County and in Clark County, we've had folks occupying a building shot and even killed when a building owner is startled and returns to their presence. So that is a concern for us. We do look forward to working with Senator Orenshaw, and we thank him for continuing to work with us and all the stakeholders, and hopefully hope to come to consensus on this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in opposition to Senate Bill 155.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Russo, and for the record, and I oppose Senate Bill 155. Now, I'm getting into this bill a little bit late, and I'm not aware of the amendments that could have happened. So if my testimony is a bit off a little bit, I apologize, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway, and we'll just let the chips fall where they may. I'm concerned that this bill could invite homelessness into the state of Nevada and turn our city and county areas, parks, city streets, and so on into homeless camps, degrading our communities and transforming them into undesirable places to live and visit. I think our aim should be to end homelessness and really help these people get their lives together, provided that's what they want. I know there's probably people out there that this is the life they choose, but there's others that are out there because they really need help. And I think those are the people that we need to address. Using their deep knowledge of treating patients suffering from homelessness and substance abuse disorders, Dave Marlin, who's with Vegas Stronger, you may have heard of them, has created a 6-point plan to tackle these issues at their root. You can read a synopsis of their 6-point plan by going to the February 5th, 2023 article by David Marlin entitled, How Las Vegas Can End Homelessness. If you would like, I would be happy to send all the members of the committee a link to this article to read. There's some good information in it. And I think our aim should be to end homelessness and improve the quality of their lives. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us. I know there's still some folk on the phone, but we're going to come to Carson City, and then we'll go back to the phone. Whoever wishes to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state president of Nevada Families for Freedom. We want to tell the sponsor how much we appreciate the amendment. We opposed the original bill, had serious concerns about it, but we are very happy with the new amendment. And we feel that it addresses many of the concerns that we have. We see in the amendment that a person may still be charged with a misdemeanor and that they have to prove that they are homeless. We also see that they will be essentially, after the great testimony by the judges and the ACLU, that they will have the opportunity, which is encouraged upon them, to get services, to find answers to their problems. That's what we all want. We all want them to be able to renew their lives and to start over. And so, although we were very much against the original bill, we support the amendment. We do acknowledge the concerns that were just expressed by the Washoe County District Attorney, and if those are issues, we'd like to see those be resolved. But we place our support as to this conceptual amendment and very much appreciate it taking the place of the original bill. So I don't really know if we're in opposition or if we're in the right place, because we're supporting the amendment, which has completely replaced the original bill. And because it's at the last minute, you know, we're all flying by the seat of our pants. But we would like to appreciate all those who have testified, and we support the amendment. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. And I think we can put that testimony in support. Okay. Thank you.
Great day, huh?
Please.
Good evening, Chairman and Committee. My name is Lynn Chapman, and I'm the State Treasurer of the Independent American Party. And yes, this amendment makes all the difference in the world. I would like to thank the judges for explaining about the criminal element and that the criminals would still be responsible for their criminal activities. That was one of the things I've been really very concerned about, because there are still problems that arise. But I know that people that I've been speaking with are very frustrated about all the money that's been spent for helping the homeless, and it doesn't seem to be helping. And so I'm very excited about the amendment. I think this is what is needed, and it's a good step forward. After all, we know we can't get blood from a turnip. And I wanted to say, too, that my church is Grace Church in Reno, and we have a prison ministry. And the prison ministry is set up to change hearts, and it's changing hearts one at a time. And I think this is what this program will do. So I guess I'm in support now. Who would have thunk
All
it?
right.
Thank you.
So one more in support. Please.
Good afternoon,
Are
Chair.
you also in support?
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and the very dedicated and humorous Senate Committee on Government Affairs. My name is Chris Reese. It's R-I-E-S, and I represent the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. At this time, we were opposed to SB 155 and the amendment that we received today. I would like to echo my colleague from Washoe County DA's office concerns. I don't feel like we are in disagreement with the intent of the bill, but unfortunately we were unable to meet with the Senator Orenshaw after receiving the amendment. But looking forward to doing so, and hopefully we can get our concerns addressed. But at this current time, we are opposed to 155. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Warren Hardy tonight representing the City of Las Vegas, Sparks, North Las Vegas, and Henderson. Here in opposition to the bill as drafted. Want to thank Senator Orenshaw for the effort, the time, in addressing this important issue. And I do believe, after they've had a chance to review the amendment, that the amendment will move the cities off of opposition. Thank you, sir.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. Jason Walker, Jasonwalker, testifying on behalf of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office and the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association in opposition to Senate Bill 155. Mainly, the list of offenses in the bill is over-inclusive. An email detailing the additional concerns that we have were sent to Senator Orenshaw. Unfortunately, we were able to meet with him, so I apologize to him for that. I quickly met with Ms. Barron before the hearing to discuss our concerns, and we are hopeful to continue talks to better our position. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we go back to the phone, we'll go to Las Vegas. Whoever wishes to go first.
Yeah, I'm ready. Are you ready? Let me get on camera here. Okay, I don't see that. Okay, my name is Al Rojas. I live in Assembly District 12, Assembly District 21. First of all, I am opposed to this bill, and I am appalled that my senator in my area would write such a poorly thought out bill to give people the right to be out there living in sewers and expanding their right to be out there when he hasn't even done the research, and nobody has, only but the judge, that this problem is very easily solved if you think of the number 6%. It took me a half hour to get on the internet to figure out that 6% of the population has mental problems. There's 3 million people in the state of Nevada, which comes out to 180,000 people with mental problems. The solution to this problem is we need to provide mental health solutions for 180,000 people. And the people in office got to start charging these developers, charging the casinos, and charging these businesses the appropriate fee to take care of these people's mental health. It's a mental health problem. The judge was close when he said that, but he didn't come up with a percentage number. And you can confirm that with any psychologist or spend a half hour on the internet and figure this out. I come from Irvine, and there is no mental people on the street. There's no homelessness. The reason is the people there that are in legislature and that are the city leaders are charging businesses the appropriate amount to put these people in mental institutions. We have homeless people in Irvine. We have people with mental problems in Irvine, but they're probably homed and they're probably accounted for in the growth of the company, the growth of the Irvine. Okay, the problem is we're growing too fast, and the people that are making money in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world, aren't paying their fair share. This bill should be rewritten, thrown in the trash. Go do your homework and go look up the 6%.
Thank you, sir. We've hit the 2-minute mark.
Thank you very much.
We'll go to the next speaker.
Your paper's out.
Hello, Senate. My name is Leslie Quinn, and unfortunately, we do not have any of the amendments here, so that is why I am opposing this bill as it is written. I'm sorry, the mic just went off all by itself. I think that SB 155, the way it's written, I do oppose it. I'd like to see the amendment. I do believe in helping people. I grew up very poor. My mother worked 3 and 4 jobs to keep food on the table, so I understand how that is. She always taught us that you can give a man a fish or you can teach a man a fish. And I think that one of the number one problems of homelessness is drug addiction. So Mr. Rojas was correct. We do need to be able to help these people with their mental health issues, with their drug issues, but to just allow them to go camp anywhere they want, that's not safe for a lot of young girls or people out walking. And because of a lot of the allowance of illegals coming in from all over, it's not safe. So I appreciate the attempt that Senator Orenshaw made and the judges as they spoke. I love the idea. I just am concerned that we're already spending so much money. If it's not working, then maybe the program's not working correctly. And so maybe we can look at that and so that it can actually help homelessness. And thank you, everybody, for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else there in Las Vegas wishing to testify? Yes, there we go. Please.
David Gomez, Nevada Peace Alliance president, also former president of Wake Up, Westside Action Alliance Corp., CCSD, bridge commissioner, and a lobbyist, and many other things, father of 7. You know, I'm kind of confused on some of this verbiage. It says non-obstructive manner. Now, a non-obstructive manner can be on a property that doesn't belong to no one. It can be a dirt field or anything in that mannerism. But Orenshaw has, I believe, received my emails of those fires. I have sent him pictures of the fires through his email where it expressively shows that they have caused fires, massive fires downtown. Now, Senator Flores, you're my neighbor. And I'm pretty sure you wouldn't appreciate in a non-obstructive mannerism that a whole bunch of people go right to your beautiful building right down the street from over here that says Gonzalez and Flores on it, on that corner, and start to defecate or urinate there. And you have Hispanic people coming in because you have a specific job that you do there where you serve families. And you don't want them to see those type of things. You know, life-sustaining activities for these people, I'm not against them, trust me. But most of these people that are in favor of it are up there in, what's that, Senate District 13? Try coming down here. Try taking a walk with us. Try taking a look at us. I'm on the ground floor every day, every single day. I'm confronting them on a constant basis because as a commissioner for the school district, I don't want nobody pulling their thing out and starting to defecate or urinate in front of these kids, these middle school kids over there, because there's a big empty field over there and they're not in a non-obstructive way. You know, some of the things that we're looking at is not conducive. Now, the fees and fines, I agree, okay? I agree there shouldn't be no fees or fines, you know, but in this mannerism where the other things are in place, it's not healthy. And it's not healthy for us down there as business owners, as parents, or as community members or people working in these areas, you know, because everybody disregards the east side of Las Vegas. And you know that, Edgar. You know that because you live there. You're my neighbor, and you're over there.
And I do appreciate you. Unfortunately, we have hit the 2-minute mark, and it's always a pleasure to see you. But unfortunately, I'd have to cut you off. If I could have you, please, if there's anything you'd like to add, if you could please submit that in writing, and we'll make sure it gets uploaded. And I apologize, but just for transparency purposes.
No worries, Edgar. Thank you.
It's always good to see you. Be safe. And with that, all right, we do have somebody else in Las Vegas. Please, whenever you're ready.
One more. My name is Kelly Quinn, Quinn, and I'm in opposition to the bill. So I agree that homelessness is a very real issue, and mental health is a very real issue throughout the state of Nevada and has been for many years. And I totally agree that fines are not the solution to addressing these issues. And to the volunteer groups that were testifying, I just offer thanks. My heartache with it is the language that says the city council or other governing body shall not enact or enforce any ordinance. And continued. But the needs in Ely or Gabbs or Fernley is going to be far different than Las Vegas or Reno. And to restrict them from that, I think is wrong to do so. So, again, homelessness is a very real issue. And as the judges up there presented, we need to be asking why. What is the root cause of the homelessness? And this bill just puts a Band-Aid on the symptoms and restricts local government from managing their own communities. And we shouldn't be doing that. We need to be looking at the deeper issues, and this bill doesn't look into that. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. BPS will go back to the phone for those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 155.
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 155, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. We'll stay on the phone. Is there anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 155?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 155, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, I'm actually calling a little bit late because I missed the open line for support, but I wanted to voice my support for Bill 155. My name is Laura Hirsch. I'm a constituent of Washoe County in Reno, Nevada, and I support Bill 155 with its amendments. I think that no person should be criminalized and discriminated against for the disposition of homelessness. I do not find it very productive, and I find it extremely wasteful of both time and resources for cities to issue fines and citations to people who have no means of addressing nor paying them in the first place. It was mentioned earlier, it does not undo the fact that there's going to be some kind of court proceeding. They may still have to face a judge, but this at least mediates the fines, which would never get paid. So I want you to please pass this bill and the cyclical and costly and non-remedial effect of criminalizing homelessness. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. BPS, any caller in the neutral position for Senate Bill 155?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 155, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Is there anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position here in Carson City or Las Vegas? I do see somebody sitting in Las Vegas. We'll start here in Carson City. Please, whenever you're ready. Yes, please. Thank you.
Hi, Senator G. I apologize for not getting your name, but I just wanted to let you know I do have all respect for you. I didn't mean to, if it offended you at all. I just wanted to let you know. Casey Rogers for the record. I just want to thank you guys so much for the work that you guys do to help the homeless and try to find solutions to this problem. I was originally opposed to this. That's why I'm speaking in neutral now. And I think more of it's like a Holy Spirit thing speaking to me because there's real issues and real human problems that we're having. So God bless you all and thank you. I think with the new amendment that I could say that I support it. So that's why I'm in neutral, because in the beginning I wasn't. And now I think with the amendment we're good. And I just want to keep seeking solutions to help people with these real issues, because we're all a part of this community and we need to be a community. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. But I think you're in support of the bill and that there's nothing wrong with saying that. That's as amended. We'll go now to Las Vegas, neutral for Senate Bill 155.
Senator Flores, I'm waiting for public comment.
Understood. Thank you. Understood. Thank you. Just so you know, ma'am, we still have 2 more bills after this. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Well, I just wanted to give a kudos to two of you there, and I just was wondering if I can do that now. Would that be all right, really quick?
I'm sorry, Matt. But I guess we'll just have to wait for that. We're still in the middle of a bill hearing. So is there anybody else wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 155? Seeing none, any closing remarks we may have? Vice Chair.
Chair Flores, members of the Senate Committee on Government Affairs, thank you for your time and your patience today and your attention to Senate Bill 155. I want to thank Lilith Brown, Judge Walker, Judge Liu, Court Administrator LaRue, and all the other stakeholders who worked on the amendment. I think that the amendment really has the potential to try to help our unhoused brothers and sisters get the help they need, not be ordered to pay fines that they probably just be one more obstacle. An inability to pay might lead to another bench warrant, more trouble with the criminal justice system. I appreciate everyone's time. I'd ask your chair if Ms. Byrne could also make the final closing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Chair Flores and members of the committee. I truly appreciate all of your time and everyone who testified, especially Judge Walker, Judge Liu, and Court Administrator LaRue. We've worked very hard, and they work very hard every day on this issue. I would be remiss if I did not mention that I hope that we never have to hear someone come here to testify that they are a person ever again. We know that we love every Nevadan and hope that every Nevadan gets to live in a prosperous way because that is the Nevada way. And we should not have to have people come here to remind us that they are human beings. We can do better. We are doing better. And I have great news for everyone in opposition. We have already started doing better, and we can see that in the judge's testimony today. We do have the program Built for Zero, which Bakersfield used to get to net zero homelessness in 6 years. We don't implement it correctly. I have studied this issue ad nauseum. I never don't think about this, and we can absolutely end homelessness in Nevada. We absolutely can do this. Let's get started. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you both for the presentation. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 155. And now up is Senator Daly, who has committed to keeping the hearings at under 5 minutes. We'll start off with Senate Bill 384.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Skip Daly, representing Senate District 13, here to present Senate Bill 384. I have with me Mark Ellis with the Communication Workers of America. He can answer some questions if I can't. So hopefully we're going to work off of the amendment that we put in. It's pretty close to originally what it originally started, but a few tweaks. So I was asked to bring this bill by the Communication Workers of America, the CWA. So with the passage of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act and the American Rescue Plan, both measures included grant money allocated to states to build broadband infrastructure. So both acts came along with strong recommendations from the Biden administration for states to apply strong labor standards when allocating the grant funds to create good-paying jobs, local jobs in each state. The standards recommended included the payment of prevailing wage, the use of project labor agreements, and family-sustaining wages and health benefits. What this bill proposes to do is to direct the Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology, or OSIT, who is the state agency in charge of distributing the broadband grant funds allocated for Nevada, to apply a relative rate of 30% to an applicant for the grant funds that submits with its application that the applicant and any broadband service provider partner to the applicant, and any contractor that performs construction under the grant will meet the labor standards described in Section 3, subsection 2A, 3 through 8, or is signatory to a union agreement as provided in subsection 2B. Under the two acts, OSIT advertises for requests for proposals and then evaluates the applications received and applies a 30% score to any applicant that submits the certification described in Section 3, subsection 2. In Section 3, subsection 4, A makes a certification submitted under subsection 2 public and binding on the applicant as a condition of the grant. Subsection 4B requires the payment of prevailing wage for any construction work performed by a contractor licensed under NRS 624. So the reason for the distinction stems from the way broadband infrastructure is typically built, and Mr. Ellis can answer some of the questions if you have them there. Generally, the broadband service provider, your typical Charter, AT&T, whoever it might be, will self-perform the work with CWA workers or workers under this bill that are meeting the labor standards that we put in. Will self-perform the work what is called for the first mile and the last mile. The middle mile, which can be relatively short, or a distance of several hundred miles, is typically performed by a contractor licensed under NRS 624. So that's why the bifurcation. If you have a contractor performing construction work on the middle mile, they're subject to prevailing wage. The workers generally performing the first mile and the last mile are not construction workers, but they're covered by the broadband service provider, and they have to meet the requirements that we've established in there as far as wages and some of the benefits and stuff that we put in there. So the language is meant to capture and have the labor standards apply to every entity that might perform work on the project under the grant, which includes the applicant, which may or may not be a broadband service provider. It will capture any partner broadband service provider, and it will cover any traditional construction work under the grant. So what I'm told is that applicants are not always the service providers. Applicants can be just about anybody. Sometimes they're nonprofit agencies, sometimes they're government entities. But at some point in this process, they have to partner with somebody who puts in broadband and then services and maintains that and operates a broadband system. So with that, happy to answer any questions if you have any, and we'll go from there. I hope that was quick enough for you, Chair.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Members, questions, please. I'm not even going to ask again. If you could please sit back. And I will invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 384. And we'll start here in Carson City, please.
Chairman Flores, members of the committee, for the record, Carlos Hernandez, representing Nevada State AFL-CIO. On behalf of over 150,000 members and more than 120 unions, the Nevada State AFL-CIO supports Senate Bill 384. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair Flores. Andy Donahue, Labor Employers Cooperation and Education Trust, supporting the bill. Thank you.
Please.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Morley, representing Labor's Local 169 and 872, and we're here in support. Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Anybody else wishing to testify in support? Seeing none, BPS will go to the phone. Support for Senate Bill 384.
If you would like to support SB 384, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good evening, Chair Flores. Rob Benner, BENNER with the Northern Nevada Building Trades. We are in support. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support.
Good morning, Chair. This is Liz Sorensen with the Nevada State AFL-CIO, and I am in full support of SB 384. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Perfect. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition. BPS will start on the phone. Senate Bill 384, opposition.
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 384, please press star 9 now. Take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Welcome to Carson City, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I just want to make a comment why I love working with my friend Senator Daley. He sat down next to me and I said, do you have an amendment? And he let me start reading it, and then he said, but there's nothing in there that will move you to support. So sometimes it helps to know your friends for many, many years. So I appreciate this bill being brought forward. I do agree wholeheartedly with the legislative declaration that's contained in the bill. My concern with the bill, however, is that essentially what this will do is provide a bidder's preference for union contractors only. There's language in the bill, and I'd be happy to go through it if you'd like, Mr. Chair, but there's language in the bill that really excludes the non-union sector from being able to qualify for this. In addition to that, it does enhance or broaden the applicability of collective or prevailing wages. So for those reasons, we're opposed to the bill. I should indicate that there are also a couple of concerns. I'm not sure how you would define robust training or high-quality wages and benefits, so it's a little bit confusing. But my main concern is the fact that it would exclude 85% of the construction industry, which is what is the open shop sector of the industry, from being able to qualify for this bidder's preference. So thank you, Mr. Chair and committee.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Chair, members of the committee, for the record, Jessica Ferrato here today on behalf of Lumen. We're here in opposition of the bill respectfully to Senator Daley. Appreciate him sharing the amendment with us and allowing us to express our concerns. We have concerns about how this could potentially impact the work we're trying to do, particularly on these federal projects, getting the money into the ground very quickly. We have current crews in Nevada that we use on a regular basis. This potentially could have us having to pause on those and hire different crews for different projects and like to have sort of a seamless project there. Our goal really is to get this broadband into the ground quickly, to get access for consumers and to the public in the state of Nevada, and think that this could cause some issues and delays. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Anyone else wishing to testify in opposition? Seeing none, we'll move to those wishing to testify in the neutral position. Anybody in Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, we'll go to the phone.
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 384, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Any closing remarks, Senator? Any closing remarks?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. So two things I would like to just respond a little bit. Nobody's excluded. All they have to do is meet the standards, right? So we're trying to set the thresholds and various things. So any contractor can do it. Anybody can partner with anybody. They're just going to certify that they'll meet these standards. We have some troubles over definitions of robust and those types of things we can work to clarify. But if you want to do the work, you meet the standards, you'll be in compliance. On the testimony from Ms. Ferrato, this would only apply to future grants. It's not going to interfere with any projects that are going on or ongoing right now. So after this is in effect and they put out requests for proposals, for future grants. So there's going to be no switching of crews, no this person's out and no a shift in the continuity. If a new person wants to apply for a new grant, they just have to do it under these new standards. And if they can't meet them, then they got to make a business decision if they're going to even apply for the grant. So I think both of the arguments are false that were made against the bill. Thank you.
And thank you again for the presentation. We'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 384. And we'll open up the hearing on Senate Bill 433. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Again, Skip Daly, representing Senate District 13. I forgot to say my name last time. I came up with my closing comments, sorry. I'll try to go quick, but there's some stories that I need to get out on this bill. And intentionally wrote the bill or requested it to be drafted, casting a wide net. We'll work with some people, or as many that want to fix some realistic issues, but not going to be able to fix everything. So I'd like to start with a little background on why this bill is being brought forward. So during my career, when I worked for the Laborers Union as the business manager for Local 169, I witnessed many instances where public bodies would spend public money in a variety of creative ways to incentivize or otherwise subsidize private development, and equally creative ways to evade having to apply prevailing wage. Sometimes the evasion was within the law, and many times it wasn't. I'll give you a few examples. Actually, more than a few. There's a lot. It's too many, which is why we're bringing this bill. One of the first ones was Sparks, downtown Sparks redevelopment agency condemned houses from 11th Street to 15th Street or 13th Street, and from C Street out to B Street, 15 acres, give or take. Abandoned streets. Basically, they assembled a large parcel of land that they were going to then have people come in to redevelop, to do various things, et cetera. Then they took a portion of that land and sold it to a theater group that was there, Sayufi Theaters at the time, and proceeded to go and say that prevailing wage doesn't apply. We sold the land at fair market value, but they failed to get an assessment on the value of the property based on the little portion that they sold, rather than they used the square footage or the price on the whole parcel. You read and know that. I spent too much time reading how it's done, not an expert on it, but their rules and standards, smaller parcels will sell for a higher price. At that time, we went to the then Labor Commissioner, David Dan. We asked for a ruling, and we got a favorable ruling from the Labor Commissioner. Project went on. Sparks fought us back and forth, and they evaded prevailing wage on that because the project completed before anything could be done. Since that time, we've strengthened some of the rules and laws and various things. But that should have been prevailing wage, should have been applied under the NRS 279-500, under redevelopment, and Sparks evaded. That was around 1996. Carson Tahoe Hospital right down the street, and we have provisions in the law for conduit bonds, basically under NRS 244A. If you guys remember, Assemblyman Jack Jeffries put that rule in there and put the law in that says if you're doing these private bonds or these public bonds for a private project, that prevailing wage applies. The flaw that we had in that particular one, well, I don't think it was a flaw, I'll pick on the courts on that one, is the provisions that he put in said that the provisions of NRS 338010 to 090 applied. And in 090, when we got to court, after we ended up doing all this stuff, the court, I guess, forgot the rules and standards of judicial review and said that, well, the legislature included the definition of a public work, NRS 338010, defined a public work. They said, so the legislature intended for it to be a public work in order for this to apply, and the hospital's not a public work. The problem with that is that rendered the language that they put in 244A that says 338 applies meaningless, which is in violation of the standards of judicial review. I hope the judges are listening. And you can call me on it if you think I'm wrong. Douglas County Redevelopment Agency, right across the hill. Not all of them are redevelopment agencies, but right down here where they built the Home Depot and the Walmart and various things. Looked at the DDA, the development and the development agreement with Douglas County Redevelopment Agency, and they put right in their agreement, if you build 10,000 square feet, whatever it was, of retail space, we'll widen 395, we'll put in a traffic signal, do some work on Jacks Valley Road, we'll put a free right in and right out off of 395, about $5 million worth of work. Now, Douglas County did that directly with Douglas County. But that would have triggered the incentive provisions in NRS 279-500, as I said, more than $100,000 of incentive to the project directly. And I remember calling the then chairman of the Douglas County Commission, Jacques Etchegoyen. Took me a while to learn how to say his name. And I said, you know, that triggers prevailing wage. We went right through it. I showed him, read the law, I had a 25-minute phone conversation with him. And he says, oh, okay. So again, we end up taking Douglas County to court over that. We get the labor commissioner, we didn't take him to court. We made a complaint to the labor commissioner. At that time, it was Terry Johnson. And we ended up going to court. The labor commissioner took them to court. And when we got to court, the judge says, well, the law says that the public agency or the redevelopment agency will put into the agreement with the developer that the provisions of 338 would apply. And he says, where's the agreement? What they did exactly what the agreement said. They just never signed it. We got an attorney general's opinion after that one that says you can't evade this by doing that. You know, attorney generals are not that. They don't really have that much force and effect. And that's why you see the language in there, whether an agreement was signed or not in the bill. Story County, the Trek out there, they built the road. The original version of the USA Parkway that's going out there was built privately by the developers because they needed to get this development in, et cetera, et cetera. So Story County says, hey, we don't have the money to do it. So the developer says, well, we'll put it in, we'll build it. They didn't build it to state specifications, all had to be redone. And Story County said, well, we'll pay you back over the next 15 or 20 years. So Story County to this day is still paying for that. It's public money paying for the construction of that project. We then had the labor commissioner, again, agree with us. It was Michael Tanchek on that particular case that said it should have been prevailing wage. It's all done various things. Like I said, you come up with a lot of creative ways to get around all of these things, even though the law says it's already required. Getting the enforcement deal. City Council, Reno, on their redevelopment agency, and you'll remember the Boulder redevelopment agency coming in and wanted to remove land from their redevelopment agency. We put in a provision in the law, one of the things I worked on, that says you can't remove pieces of land from the redevelopment agency. And that was in response to the city of Reno to have a developer say, hey, I want to develop this project here, this and that and the other thing. If the redevelopment agency gave them the land at less than fair market value, it would be incentive, prevailing wage would be triggered. So they would just meet as the redevelopment agency, say we want to move this land out of the redevelopment agency and give it back to the city. Then the city can give the land away because there was no requirement to pay prevailing wage for giving the land at less than fair market value if you're the city. Try to fix that. Sparks Redevelopment Agency, again, just recently. In fact, it's still in the courts right now. 4-story parking garage, developer wanted to buy it. We wanted to tear it down, build his apartments and various things over the top. City of Sparks said, no, we don't want you to tear it down. We'll trade you. You give us the bottom floor, 90 parking spaces for 50 years, no cost, and we'll give you the rest of the parking garage, right? So we went to the Labor Commission again, this time Shannon Chambers. She agreed with us, prevailing wage should be paid, and we're still having that in appeal with the City of Sparks. Carson City BLM building just right down the street here. Now this is federal prevailing wage. It was a lease purchase, or a lease, not purchase. So they had a developer here in Carson City, built the building. They had BLM plans, BLM Department of Interior stamped right on it, the little buffalo logo and the whole damn thing, right? Sorry, Mr. Chair. And they said, oh, no, we're just building this on speculation. And so I went to the U.S. Department of Labor, and they agreed, yes, should it be prevailing wage? All agency memorandum number 176, I believe it was, that said, hey, if the portion of the project is going to be paid for over the term of the lease, which was 20-some years, that prevailing wage, federal prevailing wage should apply and various things. Never got the DOL to enforce that as well. Use of impact fee credits. And I don't know if you're familiar with Sparks. Most of these stories are from Northern Nevada. There's plenty of issues where this has happened with lease purchase agreements that Mr. Hardy talked about before. You're entering in all of these gray areas of public-private partnerships and various things. So a developer would say, and if you're familiar with what has to be done, is you have to mitigate your impacts if you're going to do a development. You have to build a road, you may have to, build a sound wall, whatever it is, and you have to do that in concurrence with your project. So cities, counties, all of them have developed, and they say, hey, there's an impact fee per house or per whatever it is that you would have to pay. And they'd say, well, we need this road built so we can get access to our area. And the city say, well, we don't have the money to build it right now, so the developer would volunteer. They say, we'll build it. And they're building commercial roads. These aren't residential streets. They built Disc Drive from Sparks Boulevard out to Pyramid. They built Vista Boulevard from Los Altos out to Wingfield Springs. And they said, we'll build it. And then the city gave them impact fee credits. And they said, well, it's not public money. We built it. It's for a public purpose. Those streets are then deeded back over to the city and various things. Just another way that they're getting around all of these things. I have more, but I'll leave it at that for now. Well, the last one I have here is the Star Bonds. If you remember a few years ago when we did the Star Bonds. So at the Sparks Marina, they put the Star Bonds in, and I have to give, Sparks had two other problems, but on the Sparks Marina, they did a good job. The Best Buy, the Target, the Shields that had to go in, the movie theater, the car wash that they just built last month, all were done prevailing wage, 338010290. But when they built the increment district, right, the way Star Bonds works is sale tax anticipated revenue, so they sell bonds, then the city gets the money, they build some infrastructure, all the surface roads, they grade out flat lots, get everything ready, and that's the incentive that's provided to these other development to encourage that. Well, what they did was they purposely drew out two separate parcels that were designated for gaming, because they're the ones with the pockets and the money and the juice to get the lines drawn where they need them to be drawn so they could evade prevailing wage. And they're right next. I mean, you can throw a rock from where they were to the movie theater and several other developments that had to pay prevailing wage because they were in the increment district. That's just a few examples, like I said. So this is why this bill takes a different approach. So rather than trying to attach prevailing wage in 50 different areas of the law, which is the approach we've taken before, right? It's probably in 20 different areas now. And we did change them all, by the way. Instead of 338010, it's 338013 to 090. So we took the definition out, so I won't get home courted again. The way we've been doing it, and I remember I got called by the former executive director of the Southern Nevada Building Trades, and he says, how can Henderson give away land at less than fair market value for redevelopment or for not redevelopment, for development, and not have to pay prevailing wage? He's looking for something in the statute that allowed them to do that. And I said, I says, it isn't in statute. It's in their charter. The only reason I know that because they had their charter bill in here before, and I read it in there. I said, it's in their charter. So instead of trying to go to all these 50 places where somebody might come up with some creative financing, I said, let's take a look at the project. What is the project? Is the project on public land? Is the project for public use? Is there an agreement with the public body, et cetera? And that's what you see in the first half of the bill. And then we look at what are the circumstances, elements surrounding the project. Like I said, is it on public property? Is it for public purpose? Is there a lease purchase agreement? Is there a public-private partnership agreement? Was the land or other public assets provided at less than fair market value? And most importantly, was there public money or the equivalent public money spent on the project? So the bill in Section 3, subsection fines, defines what public money or financing includes. Section 3, subsection 3 states that the Labor Commissioner is not bound by any determination or finding of a public body trying to evade prevailing wage. And then Section 4 makes a determination of the Labor Commissioner regarding the application of prevailing wage a final order for purposes of judicial review. And the reason that that's important, recently in the Sparks case, we had the judge, and he made a bench decision, but he said, well, he was concerned that if the city of Sparks would have made a finding instead of just making a statement, that he was concerned that, one agency would be overruling the judgment, another, similar to judicial review, the court just looks to see, is there facts on the record? Clearly, having an awarding body be able to make a finding that says prevailing wage doesn't apply would be a problem. I think everybody would make that finding every chance that they could. So we're saying Labor Commissioner is the only one can make the finding, and any ruling that she makes, that the Labor Commissioner, he or she, happens to be a female at this point, would be a final determination for judicial review. And then you can look at the facts on the record after the Labor Commissioner made a determination examining those facts. And then Section 4 changes the definition of a public work to include projects that are intended for a public purpose that may or may not have public money in it. And I gave some examples, maybe not here today, but for instance, the Western Nevada Community College built an $8 million expansion wing there with funds from the foundation. Private money, private donations, various things. But it's on public property, for a public agency, for a public use, or public purpose. Clearly it's prevailing wage. You have developments that come in, and right, wrong, or indifferent, they get their arms twisted into voluntarily voluntold to build a park or build a fire station. And they say, well, we have to build it. So they say it's not prevailing wage, but it's clearly up to the standards by the design specifications of the public body, and it's for a public purpose. Shouldn't be able to evade prevailing wage in those circumstances. So I know I gave a lot of examples here, and the approach we're trying to take with this bill takes a look at the project rather than where the where the statute is that gave them authority to do it, et cetera, because they're going to come up with new ways to evade and new ways to try to fund, but I think this will capture every one of them. With that, happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you for that walkthrough in history. We'll start off with Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Senator Daly, for bringing the bill. When you talked about star bonds, I couldn't help but think of our friend, Senator Debbie Smith, and all her hard work trying to fix the issues with star bonds. My question has to do with Section 3, Sub 2. I'm looking at page 2, that language about the Labor Commissioner is not bound by any determination of finding of a public body relating to the applicability of NRS 338.013 to 338.090 inclusive. Do you believe that language would give the Labor Commissioner power if there is a city that in its charter has language that might try to skirt our prevailing wage statutes? Would the Labor Commissioner, I believe, have power regardless of what's in that charter if this language is passed into law?
Yes, but, so basically we have a definition of a public work in the statute now, and pretty specific. So if it meets the definition of a public work, it's a public work, and if somebody says, hey, no, it's not, you go to the Labor Commissioner, the Labor Commissioner is gonna make a determination, say, hey, it's a public work. Haven't seen those issues. If it's a public work, it's a public work. People are, most agencies are gonna recognize that and follow the law. When you're talking about some of these other things, for instance, the one at the City of Sparks, or Henderson say, I'm going to supply or provide property at less than fair market value. Currently, there's no requirement to pay prevailing wage because they give it away. There's nothing that triggers that. Under this, if it passes, if Henderson gives land at less than fair market value to a developer. That's an incentive. That's the expenditure of public money. That would trigger the prevailing wage. What that language is intended to do is if that Henderson went to their city council and said, well, our charter allows us to do this, and we're going to provide this land at less than fair market value, but we got it from our city attorney or whatever, and we've made a determination that it doesn't apply. The labor commissioner is the only one that's going to be able to make that decision under this ruling because she's in charge, he or she is in charge of enforcing the labor laws in the state of Nevada. You can't have agencies going out and making determinations that are clearly in violation of the law. So that's where we said that the labor commissioner is not going to be bound by any of their quote-unquote findings. She needs to look at the facts and the circumstances around the project based on the language that's in this bill and is there public financing and make a determination. And then that determination would be subject to judicial review.
Thank you, Senator Daly. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any additional comments or questions? Senator, thank you.
I would just say that, yes, it was a walk down memory lane history, and it's sad history.
You're always a poet, Senator, always. With that, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 433 to please come forward. Whoever wishes to go first.
Andy Donahue, Labor Employers Cooperation and Education Trust, in support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Whoever wishes to go next.
For the record, Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much for hearing this bill. Tom Morley, representing Labor's Local 169 and Local 872, and we are in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
For the record, my name is Mark Ellis. I'm with Communication Workers of America, Local 9413. We support the bill.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify in support of 433? With that, we'll go to VPS, support for Senate Bill 433.
If you would like to support SB 433, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good evening, Chair Flores, members of the committee. Rob Benner, BENNER, with the Northern Nevada Building Trades. We are in support of this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next caller in support of Senate Bill 433.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 433. BPS, do we have anybody on the phone?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 433, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Whoever wishes to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Warren Hardy tonight representing the Urban Consortium, which is made up of the cities of Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson, Reno, and Sparks, as well as the Associated Builders and Contractors of Nevada. I'm going to do my best to do this in 2 minutes, Mr. Chair. Senator Daly and I have worked on this idea and concept for many, many years, and I do not disagree with the notion and the idea that legitimate public works projects should be paid prevailing wages provided for by law. Unfortunately, this bill does go a little bit broader than I think is acceptable to my clients. And I should say, the concern here is really for business, for my local government's clients, a little bit different from my contracting client. But again, we have the terms careful scrutiny of novel financing. I'm not entirely sure what that means. And it lists the things that the labor commissioner is to use to determine whether or not it's a public works job. And one of those provisions is in section 3, subsection 1D, whether the construction of the project is subject to inspection by a public body. I'm unaware of a project of public works or private works or anything else that's not subject to the inspection of a public body. In addition, there, under the definition of public financing incentives, further in the bill on page 3, at the top of page 3, defines waiving, foregoing, abating, deferring, reducing, offsetting, or creating an expense, any expense or obligation, including without limitations, blah, 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 blah. That means if we waive a credit card fee for somebody, it becomes a public works job. Again, just a little bit too broad for us, Mr. Chairman. And then finally, at on page 6, I'm going by pages because I don't have time to do the sections. When it talks about the definition of a public works, it adds the definition to include a project that is financed wholly by private money that is intended for public use. This is a broad expansion of the use of prevailing public works. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the time. Be
Thank
happy
you.
to stand for any questions.
I don't think we have any questions, but thank you. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Alexis Motorex with the Nevada Chapter of Associated General Contractors representing commercial construction in Northern Nevada, and it's a pleasure to be here spending this lovely Friday evening with you all. Nobody has advocated for the preservation of prevailing wage more than AGC when it was under attack in 2015. But we also believe that the laws of prevailing wage should be well-defined, protect the taxpayers from exorbitant spending, and be easily understood and enforceable. This measure fails that test. This would not only significantly increase cost of public works, but significantly expand the definition of a public works project. Additionally, the vague language and references would lead to costly and lengthy investigations, which would then lead to litigation. We have met with the bill sponsor and understand his intent, but don't believe that the language presented is appropriate and would have very problematic unintended consequences. Thank you.
And thank you.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Steve Walker. I'm representing Story, Douglas, Lyon, and the Board of County Commissioners of Eureka County. All are in opposition to SB 433. Specifically, Section 3(1)(c), whether the project is required to meet the specifications of the public body, including without limitation design specifications. That's called a development code in the county. And if people comply with it, and to know that you did comply with it, then you have to have the inspection. So it basically includes all the buildings within the county, and that's an issue with us. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Good evening, Chair Flores, members of the committee. My name is Christine Hess, and I am the Executive Director for the Nevada Housing Coalition. I have uploaded a letter to Nellis, which will probably look familiar, but I just would like to add on that we are in an affordable housing crisis, as we've spent most of our evening here listening. And if I can share our inventory from 2014 to 2020, our inventory of subsidized housing, so housing that the market will not build and requires multiple layers of public finance and incentives to happen, our inventory was completely flat. There's a lot of reasons for that, but the market does not build this housing, and our affordable housing development community is working hard, but it is difficult to build. So our wage analysis that I have stopped by and shared with Senator Daley shows that we would have an impact of at least 20% to our number of units, and now is not the time for us to take our foot off the gas. We actually are finally going to start making a difference in our affordable housing. The definitions of public finance and incentives greatly impact affordable housing, and they all apply because there's 9 different layers of finance in there. So with this, we are definitely working with Senator Daley and appreciate his time. And of course, also we appreciate our labor partners and the opportunities and the hard work that they bring to even the development community, the affordable development community, but we do oppose the bill as introduced. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Jessica Ferrato here today on behalf of Granite Construction. I'd like to echo the comments made by AGC. As a union contractor, Granite, of course, supports prevailing wage, but are concerned about the definitions in the bill and the expansion of public works, and are concerned about the impact to the industry as a whole. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. Carrie Kramer here on behalf of NAOP. I'd like to echo the sentiments of those who testified before me, but we do appreciate the senator's willingness to work with us, and we will work with him. Thank you.
And thank you, please.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Glenn Levitt, Director of Government Affairs for the Nevada Contractors Association. We represent 450 contractors, subcontractors, and industry affiliates, both union and non-union members. We are in opposition to this bill, but appreciate the willingness of the senator to meet with us and talk over the bill. I would make one request. I have at least one member that was down south that wanted to testify on this bill, but obviously didn't stick around, and I urged her to submit her testimony to the staff down there, and I would just ask that testimony be put on the record. Thank you.
And thank you. I know the evening, obviously, hours are difficult for a lot of folks, so we understand that everybody could have stayed. Is there anybody else wishing to testify in opposition? Next, we'll move to those wishing to testify in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas. Seeing none, we'll move to the phone. Neutral. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We do have somebody in Las Vegas. I apologize.
Thank you, Chair. Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner, for the record. I'm just here to answer any questions.
And I don't believe we have any questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to the phone. BPS neutral for 433.
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 433, please press star 9 now. Take your place in the queue.
Good evening, Chair. I actually called in and tried to check for opposition. Is it okay if I continue?
Please. Opposition.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, committee members and Chair. My name is Amanda Braza with Rowe Law Group on behalf of the Nevada chapter of the American Council of Engineering Companies. ACEC Nevada stands opposed to SB 443 with our industry partners as it broadly expands prevailing wage to projects that are currently not subject to these requirements. Project financing remains a concern to ACEC Nevada, and we stand in opposition to SB 443 as written. Thank you.
Thank you. And VPS, neutral for Senate Bill 433.
If you would like to testify in neutral to SB 433, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you again. So with that, oh, I'm sorry. I believe you're there joining us for public comment, correct, in Las Vegas? Okay. And so with that, we will have our senator please come back and any closing remarks you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I did listen to some of the comments. To be sure, or to be clear, except for the one section where we changed the definition of a public work that Mr. Hardy wrote, and I believe that probably doesn't belong there, would be moved someplace else. We're not trying to make all of these project public works. We're just saying that 338010 applies. There's a different definition for a public work and various things. I am going to work on the housing issue that the people said. We'll put a threshold that it would apply if there was a de minimis or a small amount of incentive, so we can take care of the credit card issue, right? At 100,000, which is what's in the rest of the statute across the board. We're going to do that, obviously, very quickly. I'll get it as cleaned up as I can before the end of next week, and we'll move forward and continue to work. But I'll end it with this, Mr. Chairman, is if you don't need or want public money, don't ask for it unless you're willing to pay prevailing wage on your construction projects. If you take the money, you should expect to pay, right? And if you don't want to, that's fine. And one final thing is I don't believe prevailing wage costs more money. People can look at your hourly rate and bottom lines and various things, doesn't take into consideration the social economic impacts and the reason that we have prevailing wage, which is a different history lesson, Mr. Chair, that I won't go into tonight.
Are you sure? Well, with that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 433. Again, thank you to our amazing staff, all the amount of work that you all have been doing these late nights. We do have public comment before we close out the agenda for today. We'll go to Las Vegas for public comment.
Thank you, Chair and Senators. My name is Leslie Quinn, for the record. Senator James Orenshaw and Senator Flores, today I commend you both for representing both supporters and opposition equally during public hearing meetings I've seen you chair. We, the people of Nevada, are watching. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. On April 6, Assemblyman Gray was disrespectfully silenced by Chairwoman Miller during a gun control hearing for SB 355. Assemblyman Gray was simply doing his job representing thousands of his constituents by being their voice, their First Amendment voice, their freedom of speech voice, also their right to petition the government. But these freedoms were unfairly and unconstitutionally silenced by Assemblywoman Miller. So once again, I say thank you, Senator Orenshaw, Senator Flores, and Assemblyman Gray for keeping your legislative leadership constitutional. And I also hope that AB 230, Assemblyman Gray's bill, is given equitable opportunity to be heard on or before April 14th. Thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, Passover or Easter.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else wishing to testify for public comment? Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas BPS. Anybody over the phone?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIEGRANT. My brother Thomas Purdy was murdered by Reno police in Washoe County Sheriff's Office during a mental health crisis. I am asking this committee to never hear SB 245 as it equates to qualified immunity for law enforcement in the state, which the Nevada Supreme Court's opinion and analysis in Mack v. Williams affirmed that there is no qualified immunity in Nevada. When police kill your loved one, the only form of redress and attempt to deter police violence available is through civil lawsuits. Often police withhold information from families, and the only way to obtain the information is through a civil lawsuit. Far too many cases end before they even truly begin due to qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is the barricade to truth, justice, and accountability, and allows for there to be no mechanism to hold the bad actors accountable. Accountability is good for everyone and is positive, proactive choice to take personal ownership of existing problems and potential solutions. Why is it that those who have the power to take a human life when they go to work aren't interested in accountability for themselves? They hold community members accountable every single day, and some pay the ultimate price, like my brother Thomas. being tried, convicted, and executed by police for being mentally ill. In federal law, qualified immunity absolves police of liability even when they violate someone's constitutional rights and requires finding an almost identical case as precedent, a very high bar to clear, or if the actions of the officer are deemed reasonable. SB 245 mirrors that. If police in Nevada thought hog-tying my 140-pound non-combative, non-violent, mentally ill brother for 40 minutes and affixating him to death was reasonable, I ask you, what is not reasonable to officers in Nevada? Please ensure SB 245 dies. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else wishing to join us for public comment?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
All right, we'll close out public comment. Again, thank you to everybody. Next week is going to be probably identical to this week. So I will, again, apologize to your families, blame it on me. But we will be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of next week again. And I anticipate the evenings running late again. Beforehand, folks, please pay attention to the work session documents. We're going to have a lot of bills that are going to be thrown on there. And I want to make sure you have had an opportunity to review them and any amendments coming attached with those. With that, for those of you who are observing any type of religious holiday and or any other type of holiday, please, I hope you have a blessed weekend and you can spend it with your family. This meeting's adjourned.